Hey, Rob. There was one place in the enrollment section that Bob was going through, and I noticed in the drop down, at least I think this is where it was, it said test. Does that make any sense?
Mm.
I remember seeing test because that's always kind of a frustration of what to do with kids who are just coming in to test and not actually going to be here. And I believe that Dawn told me they need to just go into stars, but I wondered when I saw that if that had changed, if there is actually a place that we can put them in Powerschool under just test.
No, there's not. And it's back to that same old conversation where whatever you're going to do for all. So in this case, Polly, in most cases, we're talking about 2 and 3 year olds, right?
Yeah,
And
Powerschool.
what do we do with those kids? We can create a PK3 and a PK4, as many grade levels as you want, and you can put them into Powerschool. But if you put them into Powerschool, they follow all the same rules all other kids follow, right? Or you just enroll them into stars.
That's what I have been doing.
Right. And then here's the thing, though, when they get to kindergarten, they're going to flow from Powerschool into stars. So that'd be a question for Steve. Am I going to get a duplicate if I have them in there at 3 and 4 and then I enroll them into Powerschool? Or will it just find the kid and match him, which I think it does. I think it just finds a kid and matches them, but I don't know that for sure.
I don't remember that I normally get duplicates on that.
Yeah, I don't think you do. I think as long as you have that date of birth and all that vital stuff the same, it's going to see, oh, this is that kid, and it's going to work just fine. But yeah, okay. No, there's no way you can put them into Powerschool and say they're just a testing kid. There's no way to do that.
I just thought that was something new when I saw that word test on there.
Yeah, I think you should be the creator of some of this stuff, though, Polly, because that would have been a good idea way back when.
Hey, Robert, this is Mike Wachter, Kidder County. I had one quick question for you.
Okay.
In the grade level 99 in re-enrollments, we do have one student, and it displays from 2013. I was just curious, what do we do when we have that, or what should I do to fix that?
Well, that year shouldn't be a problem, but I'm gonna snoop on it while you're asking me about it. So what's the student name?
It should be Tyler McMacken.
MCM.
Yeah, MCMACKIN.
There he is. Okay, so he is. All right, so here's what I see with him. He is not a graduated student. He is still, I mean, he's transferred out. He's not a current kid. But for some reason, he wasn't graduated. And when you become graduated, you get a grade level of 99. So somehow he got a grade level of 99, but was never moved into the graduated schools, which to me would have happened at the end of year process this year. The year that this happened. So I'm going to make a note of him.
Yeah, it was the former high school principal. He wrote a note that he was going to age out, so he decided not to come back, and he just received his diploma.
Okay, so here's what it looks like. So it looks like in 2013 he was graduated. So May 24th of 2013 was graduated, and then must have been a services till 21 kid, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
And it looks like it happened, right, a couple of times. Came back and got services in the fall, and then was just transferred out in November 4th. So he wasn't dealt with correctly.
Okay.
Bob and I will work on him because that's got to be fixed. Now, this is not going to be anything that you can fix or you can deal with. We're going to have to go into his fields in the DDA and make sure he's in the graduated students where he's supposed to be as of, to me, 11/4 of 2013 would be his graduation date. So, yeah, good catch.
Is that something you need me to send an email to you on, or do you have it now? You should be good.
I got it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. That's really the only question I had. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is Jay Jenkins at Berthold High School, Lewis and Clark again. I got a last name mismatch on a student. It says his name in our Powerschool is different than Stars, but when I pull him up in our Powerschool, it's the same as Stars. So it's
Okay, who's the kiddo's name? I'll go look here.
So it's Dallas Delano, Delano, and then we're Lewis and Clark Berthold High School.
Okay. Dallas. Demographics.
And on the report from the sleds, his last name is listed as Rouse. He had, a bunch of years ago, I think, had a name change before I was here.
Okay, here's how it's happening. So go to Powerschool.
Okay.
And get Dallas selected.
Okay.
And then click on under information state province ND page. So there's an override with names in Powerschool.
Oh, okay.
And that's where you see legal first, legal middle, legal last. And if this is filled out, this overrides whatever is in demographics.
Okay.
So that's where it's coming from. So
okay.
if this isn't correct, which I'm guessing this is in here because secretary decided birth certificate has this.
Right.
They never did a legal name change, which you can do. He wants to go by Dallas Dwayne Delano because adopted or whatever, but never did a legal name change. This is what birth certificate says. This is the way it's supposed to be. So you have to go into Stars and match this.
Okay.
Okay.
So if he legally changed it, then I'll change on Powerschool, and if he didn't, then I'll change Stars.
Right. If you have a document that says this is his legal first, middle, last, and it's the way demographics says, then you come into this state, province, ND, and clear out the legal first, middle, and last and submit so it's blank.
Okay.
And then you're good to go. If he didn't do a legal name change and you don't have a legal document that says this is what because this happens all the time. Kids get adopted, they get remarried, they change it. They want to be known as Delano instead of Rouse. That happens all the time.
Sure.
But legally, his name is what his birth certificate says, so that's why this is marked this way.
Okay.
If this is supposed to stay in here, then you've got to go change it to match it in Stars.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Good question. Good find. What'd you have for lunch, Bob?
Jan made chef salads.
Oh, all the fresh veggies and some. Did she have egg on there and the whole works?
Yep.
Oh, geez, that sounds good.
Yeah, I have my own retired chef at home, so.
Well, so this is funny because when I'm teaching like today, Isaiah's in class till 11:50, right? Malia's got to come down and set him up while he's in class so they don't come into contact with each other. But she doesn't bring me lunch, Bob. You know, she brings a nice full tray to Isaiah, the whole chicken strips, hash, toast, all the fixings with the juice. I got to run upstairs and get my own. She doesn't serve me at all. So what does that tell you?
Get it yourself, Rob.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, or maybe I'm supposed to not be eating anymore. I don't know.
Tells me you got a good wife.
Yeah, I do, Lenora, but man, she's getting tired of me being home all day. I'm just saying. Okay, I don't know how many are back or aren't back. It's 12:20, so I want to get you done as soon as we can get you done, so we're not sitting on this thing at 2:30 this afternoon when I know we all have other things going on. If you're keeping track, we finished page 1 with all those reports. We had some really good questions this morning from those reports. We went through the SLDS reports, and that gave us some good information, especially that student mismatch report. That's a good one to run periodically just to see what's not flowing correctly and what is working and what isn't working. And now we're going to jump into Mr. Steve Snow. He is new to us as of last, I don't know, when did you start, Steve-O? March, April?
I started back in June.
Oh, in June. Okay, so it was after the school year. Don Williams was there for years, went to Florida. Steve transitioned into that, and they couldn't have picked a better guy. He's a great fit. He's got some experience with us in Powerschool from years ago. So we're sure glad to have him. In your document now, he is going to start following through those reports on page, let's pull it up here. Looks like page 15 with the ADA ADM stars report. Bob's laughing at me. And then on page 2 of your checklist, he's got 5 of them there he's going to cover, and he might add a couple more as he goes through this. He's had a bunch of questions, of course, this fall and things he's going to spend time on. And then after he's done, Bob's going to show you where power tools are at. And we're not running any of these power tools reports. He's going to show you that they're there. It's just another check in your system that you can run to validate and check information. And then he's going to spend time on pages.
We'll probably, in Power Tools, we'll probably show them that, totally lost it now. Orphaned Records report.
Orphaned Records report, yep.
Really
so he'll show you that one. Yep. And then we're going to spend time on special program documentation, which is a big key word in Powerschool right now with this COVID hybrid distance learning thing. He's going to show you how to document that in Powerschool. That's on the top of 23. He's going to show you how to set senior exit codes this spring, because that's important you do that correctly and you get the right coding in there for that, not 3. It's 1, it's not 3. Right, Bob? And then we're going to get to page 24. He's going to talk about e-transcript and non-scheduled course mapping, how to set graduation dates on page 24. He's going to talk a little bit about MISO 3 state reporting, because that's also a hot topic, and there's some information on 25 and 26 for that. And then we're going to wrap up. So then that stuff won't take us very long. So I would assume Steve will take about a half hour here. We'll do some stars fixes. Bob will wrap up in about another half hour. So within an hour and 20 minutes, depending on how much work time you guys need, we should be getting close to wrapping up, and we'll stay on as long as any of you need us to go through this stuff. We know Polly will have 14,000 questions and everybody else will have 1 or 2, but other than that, we'll be okay. Polly, I love you. You're welcome. So to kick it off, I'm going to throw it to Steve. He is on page 15 in your document. He is on the back and middle of page 2 in your checklist, and he's going to spend some time on some stars reports with you. It's all yours, Steve.
All right, thanks. First thing I'm gonna do is share my screen. If I can screen 2. Okay, you should be seeing my my stars screen. So get you out of the way. So one of the first things is the ADA ADM report. Now that report, and Bob kind of mentioned this a little bit when we talked about Powerschool. your ADA, ADM used to be calculated off of days. Now it's calculated off of hours in the school calendar. So one of the things I just wanted to show you is in the school calendar what it looks like when we talk about school calendar. Normally you would go in here, hit school calendar, you would find your LEA, your district in here, and you would click on that and go into the school calendar. Since I don't have access to it, I got to jump in just slightly different here.
Steve, you
yes.
probably want to make your screen bigger again too. It's real tiny.
How do I make my...
Just try to zoom in a little bit, Steve, if you need to. I just want you to know I can see it just fine. It's these old people in the room that have a hard time. They need bifocals or trifocals or whatever it is they need. But yeah, just try to zoom in a little bit there.
I'm
right
looking for our
top.
customers.
Yes, I know you are, Lenora. There you go. That's good.
Okay. So, and like I said, I have to go in here slightly different because I don't have full access to the calendar. So I just want to show you what I'm talking about. So this is your school calendar. When you first come to a school calendar, and if you look here, there's no date, and I'm in the DPI Central, or DPI calendar, so our LEA calendar, so it's a fake training calendar we set up. As you can tell, I've done nothing to the calendar. Nobody's done anything to the calendar this year. What it generally does, it starts with, these are the days, this September 7th, October 22nd, all these days are days that we're giving off for school. They're just regular holidays, regular days that schools are off. These bottom ones here, and you might not be the one that does the school calendar. I think normally the schools do it, not really at the district level, but at the school level. These bottom ones are ones that you have to fill in. You have to have 2 parent-teacher conferences. You have to have a graduation date and actually do your ceremony and 2 professional development days. These start and end of school days up at the top is where you'd put in when your school is going to start, when the kids are going to be in the seats. And I think Bob kind of talked about that earlier when they talked about a lot of times these professional development days, they'll be days before the school starts. And you'll actually, you might start those on the 18th and 19th of August, and you start your school on the 20th of August. So you put in the start date when kids are in the seats, and then you fill in all your time here for recess time, for classroom time, how long the kids are in school. And again, Angie Thomas should be if you have questions about this. But these numbers are what it uses to calculate your ADA, ADM. So it says how many hours you need to be in school. And it uses that based off the hours the kids were in school, and it figures out your ADA, ADM. Now, one of the problems we ran into last year, because your fall calendar is kind of your start of the year calendar, and then your spring calendar is your end of the year calendar. So you put in your fall calendar what you think you're going to do, you put in your spring calendar what you did. And what happened last year, a lot of schools would put in those makeup days, those snow days, those days when they thought they would come back and be in school, and they left those in. And then when the school calendar finished, they never went back and corrected those days. So they still had school days marked as kids are going to be in school, but you didn't need them because you didn't need those makeup days. And what that did, it threw off everybody's ADA, ADM calculations, because it said, well, here's a day toward the end of the school year that we said, well, this will be a makeup day. We're going to say that kids are going to be in school, but you never used it. So in the spring calendar, you need to go back in and pull those days back out and correct your spring calendar. So that's the school calendar. The other thing I want to show in school calendar is the program section code. Ran to a few schools this year. Now, program section code used to be used for those part day kindergarten and pre-K classes. So you'd say, well, here's a program section code for part day kindergarten classes. Now, one of the primary uses is if you're receiving that Department of Commerce grant, one of the requirements is to have a program section code. I'm sitting down with Tara and with folks from special ed to kind of get some more clarification on that. But essentially, you just check it out. You add in a program section code, and you kind of name it what you want. This is just a numeric, alphanumeric mnemonic for you to use for whatever you want to use to identify that program section code. Descriptions, kind of how long it lasts, weeks, start date, end date. And that's really kind of identifies your program. And again, it's really mainly for those kids who are participating in a early childhood pre-K program that you got that Department of Commerce grant for. One of the issues we ran into, and I'm trying to figure out a good workaround for this, is you might have PK kids that come in just for special ed services, or you might have PK kids that aren't part of your PK program. They might be just in your PK, but they're not old enough to be part of your Department of Commerce program. What I did was load I'll just say a fake program section code to get past the error this year. But I'm trying to figure out a better way around that for those schools that might have, some of their kids in a pre-K program as part of that Department of Commerce grant, and another set of pre-K kids that are attending, let's say, special ed services or something like that. So the validation forces you to have a program section code for all PK kids if you have that Department of Commerce grant. So here's where you would load that in. Put in your program section code.
And Bob, question on that: if they're doing it right in Powerschool and they're marking the program section code area in Powerschool, that should flow in correctly. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I just wanted to show that's again, we ran into issues with that being done or not being done, and schools having a problem with their ADA, ADM calculations. So with that, I'll go in. I just want to show you what effect it is. If you notice, I didn't have my my calendar set up. I don't know where I am on my screen now. There we go. So I'm gonna jump into the DPI district. Make it bigger for you guys. So one of the things is looking at your ADA, ADM calculations. And again, a lot of these enrollment codes, a lot of those enrollment statuses, a lot of putting kids at district, a lot of putting kids as homeschooled, all of that affects your foundation aid. So having your kids enrolled correctly directly ties to how much money you get paid for foundation aid. So having kids enrolled correctly, having your kids in there, making sure they get done, make sure your ADA, ADM calculations are correct. Really ties back directly to your foundation aid payments. So you go in here, you generate PDF. You drop down there, and these are a whole bunch of different reports that they actually have. We've requested different reports, or we've had requests for different reports, and you put them in here. The two big ones, pupil membership summary and pupil membership summary detail. I like the summary detail, but they really show you the same things. The summary detail will bring up all the kids in that are loaded in your district, in your school, and it shows you the ADM calculations for each one of them. Now, if you look at the top here, see, this big screen is messing me up. If you look at the top, you'll see the kids that are district enrolled. So these are the kids that enroll at your district. And if you notice, I have no ADA, ADM for any of these kids, and that's because I don't have my calendar submitted. So your calendar is part of that calculation that calculates up ADA, ADM calculations. So I have Luke Skywalker enrolled at the district. I have these other kids enrolled at the plant level. And again, you see there's no ADA, ADM for any of these kids because, again, I don't have my school calendar turned on. So this is where you go in there to check. So if you have a student who is enrolled for the full year, for the full semester year, or for the full year, they should have a 1.0 ADM. So any kids that started when your school date started and ends when your school date ends should have a full 1.0 ADM. Now, if you have a kid, for instance, comes in half a year, they get a 0.5 ADM. So it calculates up differently based off of how long the kid's in school. But for every full-time student, every FTE you have, there should be a 1.0 ADM here. For your district enrolled kids, these are the kids that aren't receiving direct educational support from your school, like your homeschool kids, some of your pre-K kids enrolled in there, anyone that's not, and again, that goes back to your enrollment codes, and I'll kind of cover those here in a little bit. But those kids, the way they receive their ADA, ADM is by course enrollment. So you might have a homeschool kid that might come in your class or come into your school for a math class, for an English class, for a band class. How many hours did you support that kid? You'd put those hours in course enrollment, and that would show up here under their ADM for that kid. But normally a district enrolled kid you're not supporting or you're not providing educational services, they normally have a 0 ADM. So that's your ADM report. Again, it's very useful to pull up. This one, like I said, is the detail report. If you pull up just a summary report, all it does is really show you just basically this line of district, this line for your school, and it gives you a place for your school board members to sign it when you want to present this to your school board, showing you how much ADM, ADA you have. Any questions on that?
Not seeing any, Steve. Not seeing any.
Okay. The other thing I want to kind of talk about is I'm just going to go back to my student filter and just kind of show you the kids that I have enrolled in my class. Now, I just want to make sure. I wrote a bunch of notes as Bob was talking to make sure stuff I wanted to cover. So I just want to make sure program section code exception days. So these are all the kids I have enrolled in my school. Now, one of the things I look at real quick here, one of the first things is I don't see my little Powerschool as Don called it, your little green skittle, a little green dot that tells me this data flowed from Powerschool, or Powerschool is the last one to update it, or it's in sync with Powerschool. So right away that tells me that this data is not being fed from Powerschool, and there might be a legitimate reason. Sometimes schools enroll their PK kids directly in STARS and not in Powerschool, and that would be a reason. One of the things that stands out in my mind right away is this June 15th end date. I know that June 15th is a default date when you add a kid. If you don't update that in STARS, it always defaults to June 15th. So that kind of tells me that that was defaulted and nobody updated that. So that kind of tells me another reason why it's not flowing in. And as Bob kind of alluded to earlier, or talked about earlier, this August 15th, that has to be my actual start date that reflects in Powerschool. And it goes back to the Powerschool calendar and make sure that's within that Powerschool calendar days. So make sure those days equal, make sure this date is equal, and your Powerschool symbol normally will flow if all the other demographic data is correct. So that just right away tells me that there's something off here. Just another thing, I kind of wrote this down as something I want to make sure I pointed out. You can sort any of these columns. So if you want to sort, and this doesn't do much here because there's only, about 9 people here, but you can sort this column if you want to bring all those dates to the top you're looking for. I often sort by end date and look for like a June 15th end date, or I'll sort by the Powerschool column and look for those that don't have a green dot to kind of show me which ones I should look at. You can sort by anything up here, first name, last name, date of birth, gender, state ID. You can sort by any of those dates, but it gives you a quick way to look up. Let me see all my end dates that have a June 15th end date. And I think when you first click it, it does, I think, lowest to highest, and you click it again, it'll go highest to lowest. So if you want to look for those, like I said, those June 15th end dates, or if you want to look for some odd start dates, you can kind of sort it by your start date as well, and look for those dates that might be off. So you can kind of look at those real quick. So one of the other things that I always point out is this Powerschool waiting for state ID. So when Bob talked about it, that's one of the first things. If you have a new kid to your Powerschool system, they'll flow into STARS. It'll look for a state ID if you don't have one loaded in Powerschool, and it tries to match them. If it doesn't find a match, it'll go into this, here's the ones I think match, and gives you a list of kids that might possibly match based off of the search criteria. And so when I click on this Powerschool waiting for state ID, what it does, it shows me all of the kids that flowed from Powerschool through the SLDS into STARS that didn't have a state ID that it couldn't match to. So I couldn't find a match for Donald Duck and test student. I guess we ran out of creative names, but those kids don't have state IDs. So if you want to resolve that, first thing is click on the student's last name. And it will show you the top 5 matches based off this score. So the top one was this Donald Duck that was in my DPI plant last year, and it bases off of this highest lowest on the score. So what you do is you look at the student name, Donald Duck matches, both have no middle initial, the gender matches. Then you look at this date of birth, so September 8th, 2009, and we have a November 8th, 2009 down here. If that's, again, maybe there was a mix up when you first loaded it, maybe not, but that it puts a lot of weight on those dates. If you notice, the next highest matches come in all with the same birth date, but drastically different first and middle names. So that's one of the big, it has a high value in the search criteria. So what you do is you look at, you see this Donald Duck, that's the kid I want. Then you click on their state ID. What that does, it loads the state ID down here, and then it's going to feed that state ID back to Powerschool on the nightly feed tonight. It'll feed the student's name, I'm sorry, the state ID back to Powerschool tonight. So it sits in Powerschool, and then the next night it'll flow that record up with the new state ID into stars. So if you click on Donald Duck's name today, you wouldn't see Donald Duck flowing back into stars until 2 nights from now. So in a couple days, you'll see that kid flowing back in. What you could do if you wanted to get up there sooner is copy this state ID. You put it in Powerschool today, and it'll flow in, the data record will flow in tonight. One of the things I recommend is, so you click on this state ID to match it to Donald Duck. The state ID will show up here, and then you match student test. The state ID will show up here. I would recommend leaving those kids on this list until you see them reflected in your stars feed, and then everything is done. Once that's done, you can click on the student's name and just remove them from this list. Otherwise, they'll stay on this list. But I like to leave them here until I know for sure that that's been handled and they actually float in the stars. So that's one reason why you're not seeing your kids in stars, is because they're actually waiting for you to do something with this state ID. I just want to show you this too. That state ID, this search is the exact same thing as if you were to go in here to state student search and put in the names you have, Donald Duck, date of birth, gender, ethnicity, race, and then do a search, and it brings up all the ones it could find. What it does on that state ID is show you the top 5. So one of these should match, and you get lower and you get less or lower scores. So that'd be one reason why you're not seeing your kids in flowing into stars from Powerschool. Another one is to go in here into this export, and this I think is a lot of the same data as I looked at. I've never seen that SLDS report before, but this is going to show you a lot of those same details of why some of that SLDS data, that Powerschool data, is not flowing into stars. So go here, export. This is a list of all the different data exports you can pull out of stars if you need to use it for different information. What I'm going to focus on is this Powerschool staging area export. And then you export it. Well, no data is flowing in from Powerschool, as you can see. So this, again, tells me something else, is that no data is flowing in from Powerschool. So, which matches, again, I have no green Skittles. It matches that something I didn't do in Powerschool, something's not flowing. And I'll get into the automatic file transfer in just 1 second, but it's telling me that something's not flowing. And what these are all the columns of the data that's going to flow in from Powerschool to stars. What you want to do is go over here to this last column, or not last column, but one of the columns toward the end. So these AW, AX, and AY, these will have dates in here that show you the date that Powerschool last changed, the date that stars last changed, and what is the staging, what's the status message. What you want to see here is success. That means that this record, whatever record this is, flowed from Powerschool into stars and is being updated correctly. If you see anything else, mismatch in state ID, mismatch in first name, mismatch in enrollment codes. I see a lot of mismatches in enrollment codes. I see a lot of mismatches in resident status. Those are some of the biggest ones that the data is not going to flow. And what's happening is basically it says, you're telling me the kid is open enrolled in Powerschool, and you're telling me the kid is resident in stars. Something's not matching. Fix one of those two. And so that's where you'd see your kind of staging area. And what I always do is just filter it. And then I can come over here and just filter out all those that say success on it. And then you'll see all the ones that didn't come through. Now, one of the things you'll notice in the in this staging status, you'll see the status of the kid. So you might see an enrollment record. You might see not enrolled. A lot of times if you see a kid that Powerschool had, you had a kid start this school year, 2 months later, the kid moved on to somewhere else. That kid's not enrolled. You'll see a not enrolled status here, which just basically says there's a record in Powerschool as not enrolled, and it's not flowing into stars because of this staging area status saying not enrolled. So that is your Powerschool staging export. So that's another reason why data would not flow from Powerschool into stars. If you're looking for a certain kid and you're wondering why they're not showing up or why they're not being updated, go into your Powerschool staging area export and look for those that don't say success on it. And then that will give you something to kind of look up and see what's going on. A lot of times, what I've seen a lot lately is just mismatches in enrollment status or mismatches in resident status. So I want to jump back to the automated file transfer. This is what they talked about, where you would turn in the or turn on that flow from Powerschool into stars. Now, one of the things I focus on is enrollment, but you can also bring in your MASO3, which is those licensed personnel, or your calendar. You can bring in all those reports, those data feeds from Powerschool into stars. I focus on enrollment. I don't have access to these, but so I'm gonna focus on enrollment. The select imports, it used to matter more until they broke it up down in here, but you really don't need to mess with that. Make sure you have the proper school year loaded. And I have access to all of the districts, so you wouldn't have this. You would have just your districts or the ones you have access to. And my biggest problem, and I keep complaining to Jamie about this, is this, for me, it's not in alphabetical order, so I got to go through slowly and search and find the schools I'm looking for. But you would find your school, and then you look at, so this is the status of your data feed from, or what you have turned on from Powerschool into stars. If you have a process on, that's great. That's what you want to have on. It's going to flow from August 21st is when it's going to start, and it's going to end on July 1st, 2021. Now, these dates, they really have nothing to do with your start of school date, end of school date. They really have nothing to do with that. It's just the date you want that data to flow from Powerschool into stars. As Bob talked about earlier, the data from Powerschool feeds stars, and then stars feeds TiNet for IEP records. It feeds the DHS match for those direct cert kids, and those folks who are in charge of those programs, either the special ed regional folks, your special ed coordinators, or your whoever deals with your direct certification free lunch kids, they're banging on your door to get you to turn on this data as soon as possible, because they want that data flowing into TiNet and into STAR so they can get that data updated. Now, as Bob kind of talked about, when you first do your enrollment at the beginning of the school year, you think these 100 kids are going to be there because you rolled them over. They were continued last year. You rolled them over. You get them started this year thinking, hey, these are the kids that are going to come in this year because they gave me no indication they're not going to be here next year. You might have a few kids that came in over summer and said, hey, we're going to start going to school there next year. So you kind of pre-enroll them. You put them in your STAR system. They never show up. So that is why it's always good to wait a little bit till you think Powerschool is kind of steadied out a little bit, and then you turn on your data feed. We always recommend, I think 1st of September, which is kind of the default on this one. I think by default we say 1 September, which gives you, if you start mid-August, if it was a normal year, that gives you a couple weeks to kind of let your data clean up a little bit, or let your data kind of normalize. Because it's always easier to delete a kid in Powerschool than it is to delete a kid in Powerschool and STARS. And a lot of that goes back to those special programs. If a kid flows in that if you're a school-wide title school, if that kid matches to direct cert, they'll automatically get marked in that special program. Then you can easily delete them. You got to go in and pull that data off, call one of us to pull that data off, and then you can delete that kid. But so that again, that date is your choice. When you want that data to flow. This end date, generally you want to get your your spring enrollment done, and then you want to stop that enrollment so you can do some year-end stuff in Powerschool. So again, you want that to stop. And again, I think that kind of goes around when the Powerschool team wants to do their end of year with you to make sure your end of year is done, so you can kind of clean up Powerschool for the end of the year. So you want to kind of stop this feed before you start doing all that kind of stuff. Just because that again makes data really dirty, and you don't want that stuff flowing into STARS. But again, that gets down to kind of your preference when you want to start and stop it. Each one of these you would click on, opens up into this screen. You would go in here and check process. You just want to make sure you have the process turned on, and that turns it on and off. This full validate doesn't really matter much. What happens is when it goes into stars, it'll run through a validation, but it's kind of doing that anyway, and it feeds back that Powerschool is staging area that says, here's why that data didn't flow. The other thing, again, this is the start date when you want that data to start and when you want that data flow to stop. Another thing people miss is these days. So right now, this data for DPI or Hettinger, I don't know where I'm at, Hettinger, is set up to do just Monday and Thursday. That's the only days they let it flow. So it's going to flow Monday night and Thursday night. So if they're coming to me on Wednesday and saying, hey, we put stuff in there on Tuesday and I don't see it, well, the data's not going to flow again until next Thursday. So I recommend just turning on just all weekdays. And that's days or the night. It's going to flow at night, but those are the days that it's going to flow on. So you want to make sure you have those checked, make sure you have your dates selected, make sure you have your process turned on, and then you save it. Then you got to jump into the home list and do the exact same thing. You know, turn on the process, start, stop dates, and the days you want it to flow. So this one, for some reason, we only checked Monday. And there might be reasons for that. There might be reasons why you don't want your data to flow all nights or all days, and that's, again, up to you. But be aware that any changes you make after Monday is not going to flow Monday night. So if you make changes on Thursday, you're not going to see them until that following Tuesday morning. So just kind of be aware of that. So that's your automated file transfer. So really those top four are the ones I'm more concerned with. Pupil data, homeless data, EL and EL assessment are going to flow in from your Powerschool into your STAR system. CTE data is more kind of the winner, so December 1st is default for those. But I would recommend just turning all those on when you turn on your fall enrollment. Let me check the list here. Am I missing anything? So fall enrollment, automated file transfer. I did waiting for state IDs. All right. So back in the school, one of the things I want to talk about a little bit was, so I talked to ADM, I talked to AFT, STARS. One of the things too that I wanted to kind of point out, DPI district. Jeez, I can't find my button if I don't minimize. I think Powerschool is so much easier. Our STARS is so much easier now that I've seen how complicated Powerschool is. So bless you guys for doing what you do.
And I disagree with you completely. Powerschool is so much easier than STARS.
Oh, I was just watching all the stuff Bob was looking at with functions and all that. I'm like, you're blowing my mind.
Yeah.
One of the things too that I wanted to kind of point out here on the STARS report is this notification up here. This is who gets those emails that say your data's not, something's wrong with your data. Normally a school is going to put in like their superintendent or whoever's kind of loading their Powerschool form or loading their STARS form. You can put, if you're the one who's going to be handling those errors, if you're the one that needs to deal with those errors, you could put your name in there. You could put your superintendent and yourself. You could put multiple people in there, just separated by a comma, just as long as we have their email addresses. And this is who's going to get those error reports that say, hey, your STARS data didn't flow because of XYZ. You know, it'll just speed things up if the superintendent has to get that email and then give it to you to fix. Just you can put your name in there. It's not going to do much difference. Let's see, STARS, green dot, start date, special programs, wait for state ID. And like I showed you, my ADM was off because I didn't have a calendar in there, notifications I talked about. Like I said, it's easier to delete. One of the things too with fall enrollment is, so your fall enrollment is, again, the beginning of the year sort of data feed. And what happens is you go in, you load all your kids, you say, these are the kids that we're going to start the school year with, and then you hit your submit button. What that tells us is that here's what we think our school is going to start, what our school looks like at the start of school and the kids we have. I've had a few districts that have called me and said, hey, I need to open up fall enrollment because I forgot to add a kid. Fall enrollment doesn't sort of stop that data from flowing or stop that data from being updated, because really it's the start of school and just allows you to make changes after that. So if you add or delete kids, if you make changes, that just is a natural flow of things. So you can always feed data into STARS or make updates after your fall enrollment has submitted. What that fall enrollment submission tells us is these are the kids I think that are going to be my first of the year snapshot. And what happens is Adam Tesher in our school finance section, he'll go in and he'll pull up the list of kids. So you say you have 100 kids, that's what they're going to base that October 1st payment on, is your fall enrollment numbers. And then November payments get based off of once we kind of start to normalize and clean up some data. So that's really what that fall enrollment does. It says we're ready to start the school year, we're ready to go. One of the other things, so once you've had your data flowing into, just want to make sure I'm missing anything. One of the things you want to do, so now we've looked at our student data. I got my data flowing in from Powerschool. My start dates look good. My end dates look good. I have nobody waiting in my Powerschool wait for state ID. I have no one. All my records say success. All the kids I think are going to be in here are in here. So I think I'm good to go. Then you hit your validate button. And what this does is going to validate against some state rules. So making sure we don't have duplicate enrollments, make sure we don't have overlapping enrollments. This has nothing to do with how the data feeds into STARS. I mean, the data is going to flow into STARS and update what you tell us. But now we're going to check to make sure like a Bismarck kid is not also enrolled in Mandan. You know, that a Fargo kid and West Fargo kid aren't enrolled in the same places. That you don't have two enrollments for that same kid in the same school year, overlapping enrollments. So that's kind of the stuff we check for here. What I always like to do is I get rid of warnings. I think when they were talking about the middle initial, you'll get a warning if you don't have a middle initial loaded, but it's not going to stop you from submitting. You'll get a warning if, let's say you have no 504 kids loaded or no homeless kids loaded. You'll get a warning that says, hey, FYI, you just have no 504 kids loaded. Is that correct? It's not going to stop you from submitting. It just kind of says, just something you should look at. So it kind of warns you on things. What I do is just do errors and enter districts. All sections, again, you can do specific sections if you're looking for specific sections of validations, but I go all sections and I go all plants, you know, so some schools or some districts have multiple plants, but I go errors, enter districts, and then you hit your validate button. It's going to run, and like they did in Powerschool, sometimes you have to hit this button a few times to get your validations to come up. So these are the validation errors that popped up from me. Again, you notice that I have a notification error because I have no one loaded up here to get notifications for those errors. This is another common error I've seen this year is the program manager for EL student is required. What they've added a couple of years ago, I think it was, they were finding a lot of kids that might have been in the EL program, let's say at school 1, they left that school, went to school B, and never re-enrolled in that program. Or never exited that program. And so they said, well, we need to have a validation error that says Steve Snow was in the EL program at Fargo. He moved to Bismarck and never re-enrolled and never exited. So they want to make sure that EL program is kind of rounded out and then they end the EL program. So you're starting to see these kids that might have come in your district and it says, hey, this kid was EL and never exited the program. What are you going to do about it? So one of the first things is trying to figure out why they were not their EL. And again, you would contact us. We'd kind of work you through it to find out maybe the kid was misidentified. Maybe the kid did in the program. Maybe the kid needs to be enrolled in an EL program. So those are one of the big errors I've seen this year. What it looks like here for Bugs Bunny is they enrolled him in the program. They said he's EL, but they didn't load a program manager or plan manager for this for Bugs Bunny's record here. So there's no one. You said the kid was EL, but then you didn't put a manager. Nobody's going to manage this program. So you need to kind of load that in there. This is another error we get. Open enrolled students must have different resident district. Now I'm going to pull up, if I have it here, that cheat sheet. And I think Bob gave me too much credit. I basically took this multiple lists together and put them in one list because I'm kind of simple and I need something simple to look at. So I pulled everybody's list and put it in this one. So this kind of explains your enrollment codes. And what I'm going to do is actually add this to my STARS manual. But these top ones, 1 through 8, 9's an odd case. But 1 through 8 means you're educating that kid at your district. Resident's the most common. You know, this basically says this is a resident of my district. I'm educating this kid at my district. Open enrolled basically means the kid is not from my district, but they have met all the rules of open enrollment. I want to say March is the date. You got to have the kid registered to be open enrolled by March. Then they're open enrolled from another district and they're going to your district. So that basically means that. If they are open enrolled, you need to put down the district they're coming from. So in STARS, if we look at Bugs Bunny has lots of problems. So we look at Bugs Bunny. and it's telling me that the kid is open enrolled. He's going to my DPI plant, but I got him loaded as DPI district. So I'm saying that he's open enrolled from my district. So you need to fix that and figure out what district he's coming from. See, I wish there was a back button that I could go back to these errors, because I don't like having to jump around. So that's that, and that's where some of these enrollment codes kind of come into play. Tuition waived, tuition parent, tuition district, tuition state. These all mean the kid is they didn't meet the open enrolled status, but they're coming to your school from another district, and you need to figure out where that district is coming from. So tuition waived, they're coming from another district, but we waived the tuition. Tuition parent, they're from another district in my school, and we're not going to charge, or the parent's going to pay the tuition. So they've decided to move their kid into your district and get educated at your school. Tuition district means the kid is in my school. We're going to charge that back to the district. And tuition state, a lot of these get into those kids that are placed for other than educational reasons. So you're educating that kid, and you're going to charge back either to the state or to the resident district where they're coming from. Tuition out of state, essentially, these are for the border states. So if you're on the border of South Dakota, Montana, Minnesota, they're coming in from out of state, and you're going to enroll them and teach them. These we pull out because we do cross border with South Dakota, and we do a big reconciliation with them. Minnesota and Montana, you're kind of on your own, and you do something a district to district with those guys. The ones on the bottom, these are the statuses for those kids that are, you're not educating those kids, but you need to enroll them in your district for some reason. So you identify your homeschool kids. Again, if they receive services, you enroll them at a course level. They're a North Dakota kid being educated in a Minnesota, South Dakota, or some out-of-state school. They might go to a non-public. You might have a kid who is going to a non-public near you, and you need to register them in your district, because let's say that kid comes into your school for English class, for math class, something like that. You would go and enroll them as non-enrolled, non-public, but then you would, of course, enroll them in your English class or something to that effect. Then I did kind of highlight some of these because these are some of the questions I get most. Is I had a kid that went to Prairie Learning Center. How do I enroll them? Well, create a new enrollment record. The enrollment status is non-enrolled, other state place. So it kind of goes through those. And again, you can kind of look through these. I think I've covered the majority or the main ones that kids are going to get enrolled in that provide education. So really they're divided up into two sections. Those that provide education. So these are the ones where if they go to Dakota Boys and Girls Ranch, they become the educating facility, but you become the resident and you're the one who gets charged. So a lot of the statuses deal with who's going to charge, or who's going to pay for that kid's education. Let's see. I've seen a few of these this year. The kid is basically you're in a school-wide school, and for some reason that data flow, when the data flowed in, they didn't get marked. And that's something you need to contact us about. We need to verify that that database is set up correctly. We ran into a few this year just because they've changed all the due dates for everything, and they allowed you to put in your Title I application a little late, and we didn't update the database. So we have a lot of schools that were approved for Title I. The database wasn't updated yet, so we're manually updating it, and the data flowed in, and now you're a school-wide title school. The kid's not marked title because we didn't update our data system, but you're going to get these errors. So that's something we need to fix on our side. These are the biggest ones you're going to see is overlapping student within district or overlapping student with another district. What that basically means is on this kid's record, we have two different enrollments for this kid. There was a grade 5 here and a grade 4. And this goes back to what Bob was saying earlier about making sure you exit a kid out and enroll the kid again. So if they move, like for instance, this kid changed grades, poor Bugs Bunny changed grades, there should be a distinct begin and end date for grade 5 and a distinct begin and end date for grade 4. What it looks like happened here is you just went in and said, well, we're going to change his grade to grade 5, and then it does another enrollment, and now you have overlapping enrollments. So you need to clarify.
F-word function, and that would have taken care of the problem.
Yep. And that happens with any kid that goes from maybe from district enrolled to home, or from school enrolled to homeschooled, from open enrolled to transfer. All those things like that. That's where you're going to get your overlap in enrollments. Another thing that gives you a big overlap in enrollments is if you change this begin date. So if in STARS you loaded all your kids, you say they began on August 15th, and then you go into Powerschool and say, well, we didn't start on 15th because of whatever. We're going to actually start school on the 16th. So you do another enrollment in STARS that says 16 August. What you're going to get is 2 enrollments in in STARS that say one's 15 August because that's what you had in there before. Then it sees a second enrollment come through with a 16 August start date, and it gives you a second enrollment. So a lot of times that start date, if you change your start date, you got to change it in both places, or else you're going to get a duplicate enrollment. So those are some of the biggest ones. And then, of course, the overlap with other districts. So they were in let's say Fargo, and they moved to Minot, and Fargo didn't exit them out properly, and you started them on whatever date. So that's where you got to talk to that losing district or that district that had them before, and make sure they exit them out of STARS and you enroll them in STARS. So if this were the case, it would say, the district here, I need to make sure that this end date is on the day prior to this date. So so if the kid moved from your district to another district, make sure that those days don't overlap. They can't be the same day. You can't say he exited here on August 15th. He started there on August 15th. It has to be 14th and 15th or 15th and 16th, something to that effect. Just making sure those I'm just trying to read some of this, the comments here. So that's really the big ones, is these overlaps in enrollments, and your validate will find most of those. And these are the ones that are going to stop you from submitting your data in STARS. And a lot of times you won't see these in any kind of Powerschool because Powerschool doesn't know if you're enrolling just in, let's say, Fargo. It's not going to know that Bismarck also has that kid enrolled until we bring it up to the state level and look at all of those kids and bring in all of those kids. Do you have a question?
Yeah, she saw Life Skills and Transition Center on the bottom of your screen and was asking about why you see that and where that is. Right there. Yep, on the bottom of your cheat sheet there.
That I would have to look up. I pulled this out of special ed's. They were looking at how to enroll them and disenroll them in TINET. I don't know where Life Skills and Transition Center is, but I can certainly find out for you.
Thank you.
But yeah, these are the ones. The ones on the bottom, and I don't know if this is a complete list. These are the ones that I was able to pull up. The education service is provided by a local school district. So if they go to this Life Skills and Transition Center, and I'll see if I can find that list. It told me where that was. But I think that...
Steve, just as an example, you have Home on the Range. That, of course, it's Sentinel Butte. If students are sent there, Beach becomes the educating district. The student's home district, wherever that might be, is no longer responsible for reporting that student. So they would simply transfer them out. Beach would get the student. Beach would enroll the student as the educating district.
Yep. They would enroll them as, they would still list you as a resident district, though, or whoever the resident district was, they still list them as a resident. Now, one of those, this is something, and one of the other things I deal with are student contracts. So what happens is a placing agency, a human services zone or human services, one of those folks, they place a kid for non-educational reasons, whatever reason they need to place a kid in one of these facilities. They go through and they determine, based off a guardian or parental address, where that resident district should be. And what they do is that they call it notice of placement. And what they'll say is, well, the kid's going to go, for instance, to Home on the Range. So they're going to put Beach as educating district. They're going to do notice of placement, notifying Beach that they're educating. Then they find where the parent's resident or parent or guardian address, physical address is, and they say, okay, now you are the resident district. What I've run into several times is the kid is staying with grandma, grandpa in, let's say, Fargo, and they get placed, and then they look at it and they say, well, the parent actually lives in Grand Forks. Grand Forks is the resident district. And so what they'll do is they'll get a notice of placement that says, hey, Steve Snow was staying with grandma and grandpa in Fargo. Well, he got placed in Home on the Range. The guardians live in Grand Forks, let's say. You are the resident district, and you're responsible for paying for this kid's education. And a lot of districts are like, well, that kid never came to my school. I've never seen that kid. That's what that notice placement is for. It's to let you know that, hey, we think this kid's parent is a resident of Grand Forks or whatever district it happens to be, and lets you get kind of the chance to say, well, I don't think that's true. Let's see if we can figure this out. But that notice of placement is kind of that first step in doing student contracts and establishing costs for services and all that. So that is your opportunity to say, well, you notified me of placement, and I don't think that we are the right resident district. I don't think we're financially responsible for this kid. Let's work this out. And so you talk to Human Services Zone, you talk to us, and we try to figure out where that parent's resident address is. And a lot of times it becomes really tough to figure out. A lot of PO boxes, a lot of migrant, a lot of very mobile parents. I mean, there's just a lot of situations out there that student contracts really is eye-opening. So let me make sure. Have I missed anything so far?
I think you got it, Steve.
STARS validations. Yep. I think that's it. That's been the main things I want to cover. 88 ADM report, foundations, ELRs, overlap, Powerschool stage start date, duplicates. Yep, I think I've covered everything on my list. I tried to run a quick list of stuff as Bob was talking, but I think that's it. Unless there's questions for me, those are kind of the main things you want to look at to make sure your STARS enrollment is good and make sure you can submit your spring and fall enrollments.
Okay, so as Steve wraps up here, it's 1:10. We're going to give 5-10 minutes here for some Q&A and work time on these STARS reports. If you ran these in your place at your school for your district and you're seeing any errors and you have any questions for Steve, and you know Bob can help a lot in these too because he was in the Capitol building, so things just kind of by osmosis flowed into him as far as knowledge with STARS a little bit. I think those two can answer. I was
done with the hammer.
Those questions can be answered by these two for the most part. So if you have questions on any of the stuff Steve just covered, let's throw them out there. Let's get them into the chat. Let's ask these two. We'll give about 5, 8, 9 minutes on STARS, and then we'll pick up with Bob right after that.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't have been that good. There got to be questions out there.
Well, listen, this is your chance to get after DPI, guys. I mean, this is your opportunity. When do you have your hands on DPI like this? Let's get after them a little bit.
I will say this while I'm waiting for questions. We are going through we're looking at rewriting part of STARS. So they're going to go through, I don't know when it's going to be finished, but I know they're just at the beginning of reviewing all the process, all the workflows, all of those kind of things to come up with a newer version of STARS. So next year or so. And that's another thing too. I would recommend. So we just finished fall enrollment. I think we got our last school done the other day. It was due, I think, the 1st, and we're finishing up mid-October. But we finished up fall enrollment. EduTech has indicated looking at your error reports as you go through the year to make sure you can clean up stuff when you have, as it comes up. So I would recommend the same thing for STARS enrollment. People have loaded their data for fall enrollment. They hit submit, so everything was good at that point. Well, since then, kids moved from here to some other school. We've had other kids come in. We've done a lot of changes. I would bet that the majority of schools out there, if you validated right now, you're going to see some validation errors. And what that's going to do is going to stop you from doing your spring enrollment. And again, you'll start checking your spring enrollment when it gets close to time to submit your spring enrollment, and then you're kind of getting your back against the wall to fix all these errors where you have the kid left school A, went to school B, and now I got to talk to that school and get them to update the exit dates and all of that. Do it when you have a little bit of time. You're not such a time crunch to get things done. So I'd recommend going through there routinely.
Yep, and that's a perfect segue. So when we go through the pacing guide at the end, you're going to see some of Steve's STARS reports in there that you're checking at least quarterly. Delon made the comment she checks daily. That's a little Polly-ish. That's probably too much daily, but good for you, Delon. But at least quarterly, a few times a year, you're checking on your STARS information to make sure you're not rushing at the end and cramming at the end to get stuff right? And it's flowing every night from Powerschool all year. So any changes you're making should be good. That's good, Delon. So if you have stars questions as we roll through the rest of the day here, don't Steve's staying on. Keep asking him. Get a chance to chat him. When we get another work time, we can still answer those as well. So we're going to move forward.
But Rob, I have a question.
Okay.
I just didn't want to let you down and not ask anything.
Polly has a question, and it looks like Jana does too. Go ahead, Polly.
Steve, I can't even tell you how excited I am that finally Powerschool put the updated the homeless screen so it looks like the stars screen. But the services aren't flowing over from Powerschool to stars. Do you know anything about that? Can't hear you.
Might be muted, Steve.
I should probably unmute when I talk. Which services in
the state homeless screen, when you put in the program start date, end date, those things flow over fine. But now Powerschool has finally added the services in there, and they're not flowing over to stars.
I'll check on that. I don't know off the top of my head why they wouldn't be, or why maybe they're not picked up. But
we've had that issue before. I think Williston and Dickinson last year had to do everything by hand twice, once in Powerschool and once in stars. So we've had that before.
We've all had to do that because the screens have never matched. So this is the first year they've matched, but now it's not flowing.
Yep, and that's a Jamie question, Stevie. She's
well,
probably assuming it's working.
Well, I'm wondering if those fields just aren't in now that they've made the screens match. If we didn't have anything to pull before, if we didn't have a matching screen. So I'm just wondering if it's not even in a feed. But is it just in the services provided through the homeless screen?
That's where I'm seeing it, because I need to look at that a lot.
Okay, I will. I'll check on that and find out. Let me check on that.
So that's Polly. That's the living with, right? Living in a car or living with, or that kind of stuff's not pulling, right?
That is the part the primary nighttime residence, I believe, is pulling. Let me look at that on my screen. The primary nighttime residence is flowing. It's the stuff underneath it that says McKinney-Vento Services.
McKinney-Vento Services.
Yeah,
okay.
That'd be the tutoring, transportation, counseling, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, good. And then we did have a question, Steve, from Jana. Do I have to be given rights to turn on the automated file transfer? It's not on her page. And yes, you do. Somebody has to give them those rights, correct?
Yep.
That would
generally,
be
generally what happens is, we'll give superintendent has overall rights to anybody in your school or anybody in the district, so they can give it rights to access any reports, any of the other automatic file transfers. But they're the ones who would normally give out the reports. If you have questions, or if they have questions on how to do it, you can have them contact me and I can help them walk them through it. It also, just so you're aware, there's like the foster care program and the direct certification program. Those are special programs you need access to in STARS as well. So you get access to all the STARS reports, but then if they want you to do the foster care or the direct cert, I know for sure too that are specially that are identified specifically to make sure that those aren't just with all the enrollments. So yeah, but you have to have permission to turn it on.
Polly, you have another question?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, go for it.
You can always count on me. Under the automated file transfer, there's 3 different collections: enrollment, licensed personnel, and calendar. Yep. There are options under enrollment, under licensed personnel. When I try to go in there, it won't let me. There's nothing there. I mean, it doesn't show that there's any imports available, and the same thing under calendar.
Again, I'll have to check on that. I do just enrollments. When I go into those reports, I get an error just because I don't have access to those reports. But I'll check and see what permissions you need for the MIS-03 and then the other.
I know I had my SO3 because I turned them on, and now all of a sudden I don't have them anymore. I can't think of anything else, Rob.
Okay, Bob's wheels are turning, so let's give him a second. He's getting older.
Okay, so I'm just thinking about the, you have what you're going to capture, whether it's enrollment, licensed personnel, or calendar. When you switch to licensed personnel, and then you have to make sure to select a plant in your district, and then filter. If you don't do that, I don't think you're going to see anything, but I'm curious to say you had them there, you turned them on, and now you don't see them anymore?
You know what? I bet I didn't
So-
change my entity from Surrey 41 to Surrey Public School.
Okay, so when you do select a plant to filter by, you see them now?
Not just the licensed personnel school year. I don't see courses or demographics.
Do us a favor, Polly, share your screen so we see what you're seeing.
Okay. Get this back up here. Okay. And then if I
Okay,
hit,
yeah, so your
course
collection is
now.
licensed personnel.
I've got that.
You really, yeah, as far as the import, you really don't have to do anything with that, but you do have to have the school year selected and then the entity, and then you filter, and there's your processes, right?
Yeah, those are okay. I don't have either of these.
Either of what?
When I go to the import and I select.
Because you're not going to do an import. You're actually going to have it pull those processes that you have turned on from Powerschool through the SLDS into your licensed personnel MISO3. Only if you were going to create an import file and then import it would you use that function right there.
Okay, I thought these were other things, other options that I had to have
Nope.
turned on, because when you put one up before, that person had a whole list of things, and I don't have very many on my list.
In terms of just automated file transfers, you just want to select your collection, and then like for licensed personnel, since that's a plant level or a school level rather than district level, you need to select, okay, for which school, and then you filter and turn them on. So like here you're at enrollment. Enrollment is at district level. You're turning this on for your entire district when you have any of those. And unfortunately, it's people who aren't given access to STARS, and let's say like now doing MISO3s, they go in and say, yeah, we need to turn on our MISO3 file transfers, and superintendent or whoever says, well, I've gone in and turned that on already, but they're not aware that, yeah, they turned on the district level student pupil data import, but they haven't touched anything with the school level licensed personnel file transfers. And yeah, nothing's coming across for MISO3s then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. You want me to take off here, Rob?
Yep. Bob, you can start
Okay.
Power Tools. We're all going to go
Cool.
to page 21 and 22. He's going to go through some Orphaned Records report quick, and then he's going to roll into Special Programs and Senior Exit Code on page 23.
Okay. You all have available to you, if you're at a school and you select system, you have in the data management area the Power Tools suite of tools, and there's a ton of stuff in here. We could spend lots and lots and lots of time, okay? Because you have just on enrollment data, you can look for overlapping enrollments. You can look for reverse enrollments. This is dates, right? Where an exit date would be up ahead of the entry date. This is going to find it for you. Have you transferred kids out and they haven't actually transferred out and are maybe just sitting here pending? You can find all these. Okay. So I'm telling you, when you get some time, come in here and look at this stuff. But the one that I do want to show you right now, and this is up here in the diagnostics report, and this is Orphaned Records. Okay. All too often we have people do things like, oh, this section is no longer needed for this teacher. Let's just delete the thing. So, yep, go into the section, delete, put the password in, submit, get the delete, and oh, you had 18 kids that were still enrolled in that section. So now guess what you've just done? You have CC records that have been cut off from the section. And what do those orphaned CC records do? Well, I use the analogy of a large family wedding where the wedding has occurred, everybody has proceeded to where the reception, dinner, and dance are going to follow, and the reception and dinner are over, and we're kind of waiting for that grand march to start. And out on the dance floor, there's a ton of little kids, and they're just having a heyday, running around, just having a good time. But in order for them to start that grand march, you got to get those little kids out of the way. Otherwise, they're going to cause nothing but problems. That's what Orphaned Records are in your Powerschool. They're those little kids running around in there, and all they're doing is getting in the way. So you start having problems with a particular function in Powerschool, and a lot of times it's especially particular to attendance records issues, where Orphaned Records are getting in the way of attendance being correctly calculated for students. So come here and run this one. All right, I'm in our test server, and I have no idea
screen.
You think I should do that?
Yeah, well, it's up to you, I guess. We like looking at you.
Yes, I will. I want this one right here. Bling. Okay. And I probably should make this a little bigger too. Okay, so here's what I did. I ran Orphaned.
Lenora needs that, Bob. She needs it bigger.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I ran Orphaned Records here. Yeah, and I'm not thinking I'm going to get much of anything. So what I am going to do is I'm going to switch to Beulah. Make this a little bigger. Tell me when, Lenora. Is that good? So I'm in the current year. I'm going to go. I'm wondering if, well, I'm going to leave it at district office. I'm just going to go system and power tools, and I want to run this Orphaned Records report. And hopefully this is going to, here we go. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything egregiously other than maybe right here. They have some section records that got orphaned. Okay, and if I click on this now, okay, one of the things that I like about a lot of these, not all of them, but a lot of them have a wizard built in that will fix these for you. They had a section, and it's from, well, a while ago, but it's still, they're out there getting in the way. So, and if I wanted to, I could do this for Beulah. I could click this, and it's going to try and clean up all of these, and then these are not a problem anymore. I can tell you this, if I go back to, if I can back up, I'm going to, yeah, I didn't think that was going to work. Power Tools, I'm just going to run that report again. I can tell you, if you're seeing, especially right here, orphan CC records, that's one that's really bad. Attendance records, this is another one that can start creating problems for you. You can go check all the normal things that would, normally either fix or indicate what the problem is, and nothing is working for you, and you cannot get it corrected. Come here, run this report. If you see any of these, get them fixed. All right, because these are data mongrels that are running around in there, and they're just getting in the way, and they're cluttering up reports, or they're stopping reports from running in the first place and need to be fixed. So again, there's lots of reports that you can run here that can help you identify, like blank stored grades, incorrect stored grades. Okay, so what you start to see here is a list of reports that are maybe the third or fourth time you're seeing how we can find, for instance, reverse enrollment dates that are not good. Power Tools has a tool for you to use to be able to find those as well. So Power Tools, really neat thing. We paid pretty good price for these and have them available to all of our districts. We hope that maybe you start using them and maybe you find a tool in here that you really like, because it's it's one of those things you've been looking for a long time, a way to find some kind of particular data pieces, and Power Tools has a report to get it done for you. Okay, in Powerschool, one of the things that the Department of Public Instruction, along with Governor Burgum, requested was the ability to indicate students' instructional preference. In other words, are they coming to school face-to-face, Are they staying at home and being educated via some type of delivery method that involves technology, whether it's just strictly online computer? Is it ITV? Is it cameras in the classroom that are delivering a feed to the student that way? And the third one is it some kind of combination where the student is in the building for some kind of time frame and then back home again, and maybe it's on a regular alternating basis, or maybe it's Monday through Thursday they're in school and Friday they stay home and just distance learn that day, or maybe it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday one week, Tuesday, Thursday the next week, and it keeps alternating like that. So hybrid. Well, what we did, and I'm going to go into Beulah's here because I don't think we set that up in our test servers, but what you have is this. We went in and we created 2 new special programs in your districts, and you can find those from your district office if you click special programs. And Beulah had no others. Some of you might have a lengthy list, but you all have one called distance learning. You all have one called hybrid. So what we instructed schools to do is when you have a student that is going to be in one of these, you must create an enrollment for them. And I mean, it might have been where a district said, yep, all our kids are starting the year hybrid. Then we said, fine, put all your kids in hybrid. Okay. And the display here can show you which kids are currently enrolled in distance learning and or hybrid. And what happens is this data gets pulled to the SLDS. The SLDS looks at your total numbers for the district and subtracts what it sees in either of these two, and then delivers to the Insights website data for your district as to how many kids are face-to-face, how many are distance learning, and how many are hybrid, because that's the data that the governor requested. So we do this, and if I go pick a student, and I don't think I'm going to pick a student here in our, I'll pick Victoria, and if I go to special programs for her right here, and no, we didn't put, you would see hybrid and distance learning here, and if you were to do a new one, you would click new, you would select whatever the program is, and like I say, we don't have, well, let's say, no, here it is, distance learning. Let's say this student got exposed and for 2 weeks now needs to stay home. All right, so we would put that student in distance learning. We would say the entry date is today's date. Well, let's say it started yesterday. And the exit date, a lot of people like to say, well, we'll just put a date 2 weeks out. No, do not do that. Leave it blank. You don't know what's going to happen with this student in this 2 week interim. Maybe they develop, in 5 days, they develop COVID and need to then stay home even longer. So don't give this exit date here until this student returns to the whatever would be the normal educational setting, whether it's face-to-face or hybrid, whatever the case might be. Okay, so really this is what's needed. You need to tell us what learning style, either distance learning or hybrid, and when it started. And that's all you need to do. And you can do this for a group of kids. You cannot exit date a group of students here in Powerschool. If you need to do that, you need to contact the EduTech Help Desk. We'll help you do it because we can do it in DDA for you. But for smaller groups of students, find the group, get in here, and then you can go through one by one and give the exit date. And again, do not pre-fill an exit date. We don't want you doing that because there's no guarantee that exit date does become the final day for the student in this particular learning program or learning style or whatever you want to call it. So this is something, and
Bob, could you show how to enroll a group? Could you show how to enroll a group here?
Sure. If I need to do,
DeLon said you can show.
I'm gonna go and let's
run a
say
report with Fessenden if you want to, Bob.
I'm gonna do. I picked all my 10th graders. Okay. But let's say you did a search and you came up with a group of students, and maybe it's all the students that were in like 2 or 3 different sections. So you did a search, you got all those students. You would come down here to the functions area, the functions button, click the arrow. Okay, you look at this. Okay, in the enrollment section of the functions, you have Mass Enroll Special Program. So here's where you can do this. And let's say we were going to put them all in hybrid, okay? And again, give them an entry date. Let's say it was supposed to be yesterday. That's fine. But do not put an exit date in. Just say that this group of students going into hybrid starting 10/12. Click submit. It's done. This is not difficult, folks. We had schools that just said, "Oh, how are we going to be expected to do this?" And it's not hard at all. I mean, and then, for instance, if you really wanted to, that group that I just put in hybrid, if they were all going to be coming back on the same day, contact us. We'll find that group that was hybrid enrolled on 10/12, and then I'll give them the same exit date so that you get the whole group exited out. There is no function for you to do that in Powerschool right now. What you're able to do is like if I put this, submit this group, and they're back in. Okay, so good. I'm going to go back to my start page. I'm going to have that group of students waiting for me here. So like now, if I go to Karis here, the individual student, was enrolled in hybrid learning. This is a mess. We wouldn't want to see this, okay, because now you're reporting distance learning. But let's say I come in here. Okay, so student was hybrid learning from 8/17 to 8/20. Starting on 8/21, distance learning. I'm going to say, let's say this ended on September. Let's back up a month here. Let's say this ended on September 11th. Submit. There. Now this would look good for a student, okay? They started hybrid learning, were only in it for 3 days, and then they had to go to distance learning because maybe they got exposed or whatever. They were in that from 8/21 to 9/11, and then now starting again in October 12th, they're going back to a hybrid learning, and this is the active enrollment because there is no exit date on this one. But this is how you can track, and eventually we might get to where, if depending on CARES Act and funding, if the federal government says we're going to pay some extra money for those days that you had to distance learn students, well, you have the record as to what student and for how long, so we can figure out a way to get that data out of there for you, should it involve your district being eligible to get some federal funds. So if you're sitting at home in your district saying, yeah, we're not going to do that, just whatever, I'm telling you, you may want to make sure you've done that because it could end up being beneficial to you. So, questions on that?
You want to show how to run that report then now, since you have some kids in there like you were going at the beginning?
So I go back to my start page, and I want to know, I'm not exactly sure, but I go to special programs. Now, I'm at the EduTech High School, and if I go hybrid, and click display, boom. Now, I'm assuming this is all of my kids that are currently enrolled. So as things change throughout the year, this should be telling me which kids are currently in the hybrid special program. And as the exit date, if we end them and we put an exit date, that should no longer include them in this current hybrid special program enrollment. So, okay. Next thing I'm supposed to show you is senior exit code. Okay. If you're paying attention and if you're on either the Powerschool Schools listserv, the TECO listserv, or the K-12 Tech Group, you're getting an email from me about May 1st, give or take a week. And what I'm telling you to do is, for all of your seniors that you are anticipating to graduate from your school at the end of the year, I want you to select all of them. Okay, so now I also give you instructions saying if you have any seniors that you are certain are not going to graduate, exclude them from your list. And I give you the directions how to do that. Basically, you bring up your seniors, you go to select by hand, and you can remove anybody. Lucas isn't going to make it. Boom, take him out. So then what I ask you to do is, okay, with your group of seniors that you are anticipating that are going to graduate, I tell you to go update selection. We are going to use the student field value for this. Okay. And that was down here in functions, student field value. Okay, so we take our entire list and we say what we want to change is the term or the field exit code. Okay, and I want you to change it to saying that yes, they are going to graduate 1. That's the value for graduate. We had a school, I don't know how it happened, several years ago. They came in here and they put the new field value to 3, deceased. And school ended and they came to end of year and they started sending out transcripts, e-transcripts, and colleges and universities started calling them back saying, why are you sending us a transcript for a student who is no longer alive? Oops. So that's kind of an issue because there's a reason we want you to do this at the time we ask you to do it. And that is so this exit code gets reported up to the SLDS for the student. The student then gets reported as going to graduate so that when the school year ends, you're done, you graduate the student, you can now start sending transcripts and it will show the student as being a graduate. If you don't, and you wait till the end of year process to happen, where you then roll up all your seniors into graduated students as 99 and then an exit code of 1, as soon as you do that and you move them to graduated students, these students are no longer active. They're not being reported up to SLDS anymore, and we have no way of capturing that the student should have now an entry code of 1 graduate. And then it needs to be done manually. And the really nice fellows at SLDS will do this for us. They're not going to have a smile on their face as they're doing it, but they'll do it for us. They'll get it fixed for you. But it's much easier if you pay attention, get this exit code changed for your seniors ahead of the time so it has plenty of time to report, get to be changed in all the places it needs to be, and life is good because you can graduate the student. Now, if you have a student that's, you're debating what's going to happen here. Is he going to make it or not? Let's put him in. You have it changed the exit code to 1 and then the student doesn't make it. It's a whole lot easier for us to fix that than it is going the other way. So, if you think, yeah, maybe not, and you want to err on the side of, which is easier to fix, change their exit code to graduate, and then we'll fix it if they don't. Okay. Next thing that I want to show you is a wonderful tool in e-transcript, and you may or may not be able to have access to this. So if you don't, I just want you to watch on mine. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to click profile. I'm going to log. This is the Ed Portal login, by the way. I'm going to click profile and log in because this gives me access to not just e-trans, but also to the SLDS and the Choice Ready application. But I'm going to go to e-transcript from here.
Bob, can I say one thing about exit code?
You just said it.
Okay.
So
can I say one more
thing? What do you need?
See, I told you, it is hard to get a word in when Bob gets rolling. It's like a snowball down the hill. So anyway, that senior exit code thing, guys, he said, when I send the email, make sure you do it in the spring. We have sent schools home from end of year who didn't do it. And we don't like doing that. But if you didn't do senior exit code and you come to end of year, we got to send you home because you need to do it, let it run for a couple of days and then come back to another end of year.
Yeah.
So it's important that you pay attention to Bob's email. If it goes to trash, make sure Bob's emails don't go to trash. So you get the email and you get it taken care of.
And of course, this year was an anomaly in that we did everybody's end of year for them. We're hoping that next spring that's not the case anymore because that was a workload that we'd rather not have to do that way again. But anyhow, okay. So I want to show you this neat tool. So I'm going to make this a little bigger, and it is in eTranscript. It is under the school information menu. It is non-scheduled course mapping, transfer credits. I would have preferred that they would have named it credits without state course codes, because that's exactly what it is. It's finding those that have been put into Powerschool that have somehow made it all the way up to e-transcript without a state course code. So I'm going to go non-scheduled course mapping transfer credits, and I'm going to use my good friends up in Botno because I know I can count on them. So here's the deal. So I select my district, I select my high school. If you're in e-transcript, you probably are only allowed access to one district and your high school. I'm going to look at it from this point of view. I want to know for my current active high school students, and for my seniors who are now ending in 2021, I would want to back up to the 17-18 year. This gives me 3 years of historical data because we don't have anything yet for the 2021, but I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to leave all the other search parameters blank. This is going to find me anything in the last school years starting with the 17-18 year that, oh, look at this. All of these courses are missing a state course code. If I were to show you Ashley Cruz's e-transcript, the algebra that Ashley has recorded there would say a subject area of unknown. And that creates other problems on the e-transcript. For instance, the university system core GPA calculation. It would not know, should I include this or not, because I don't know what subject area it is, okay? And of course, it's going to show an unknown, and when you try to certify that and send it, very likely the university is going to send it back to you saying, you've got unknown credits. We can't have that. So you can fix them here. And to give you an example, I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to do a search where the course name is algebra. And let's see what this does for me. Bingo. This is a good example. Okay, so I know all of these are algebra. I could go one at a time where I put in the correct state course code. And I'm just guessing here, but I think this might be a good guess. Okay, I put in a state course code and I get a green check mark. That's telling me only that this is an active state course code. It's not saying it's the correct state course code. It's just that it's a good state course code. I want to show you what happens when you key in something like, oh, I don't know, 99098. Totally bogus state course code. I put it in. I had a great big red X saying, no, Bob, you can't use that. Yeah, forget it. So I'm going to go back to, because I think I might have been right. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just guessing here. Okay. I'll put in that, enter it, boom, I get a green check mark. Now, since these are all the same, I can do a fill all. And I click OK, and look at that, boom, boom, boom. Now, if I were to submit this, in about 5 minutes, it has these written back to these particular historical grades for these students. So it will have corrected it in Powerschool for you. And you did all 4 of them at one time. And if you think about in Powerschool and historical grades, starting from the start page, selecting Ashley, then going historical grades, then looking at algebra, clicking on the S1 grade, and then entering this state course code down there in the state reporting panel where it belongs. Okay, what I just explained to you, you would have fixed 1. In this case, you're going to fix 4. If you have a lot of them, I mean, you can do groups of them here in eTrans and get them fixed in way less time. So yeah, if I were to click submit, these would get written back to Powerschool. Overnight, that new data would come up to the SLDS. SLDS would update this in eTrans, and then when you come back the next day and run this same report, you wouldn't see these anymore because they would have now been corrected in both Powerschool and in eTranscript. So highly, highly useful tool in eTrans for you to get those missing state course codes on historical grades in Powerschool corrected. All right. Okay. I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm just going to go back and get out of and just go main menu. So I didn't do anything there, but I could have, but they don't pay me anymore, so I'm not going to. All right, get out of eTrans and back to our Powerschool. I think the last thing I need to talk to you about then is, oh, no, it's not.
Grad date and
Graduation
MIS
date.
03, Bob.
Yeah, I got to do MS at 3s. Okay, graduation date. We have been doing this to the best of our abilities, getting graduation dates in for seniors when we do end of year. All right, so what we do is at end of year, we get kids rolled over and we basically come to the start page and we say, okay, so like it's June or whatever. We've done the end of year process. It's rolled all your kids over. We select all of the 12th graders and we say, okay, going to do, and if it wasn't set here, you would click the arrow and select student field value. And then, I can't remember. Let's go to fields. I know it's got grad in it because it's graduation day. Well, let's make it graduation and ta-da! Here it is, right here. This is it. S_ND_STU_X dot graduation date, because it is in a table extension now in Powerschool of the students table. So I click this and it fills it in for me. And then we say, okay, what's our graduation date going to be next year? Well, it's going to be, we get in here and we go to May of 2021 and it's going to be on the 23rd. Boom. Okay, and I submit, and this is where it comes up with, okay, this is what you had in there. This is what you're putting in there. And if you do this, you're never, ever going to be able to change it back. Well, no, that's not really true. But this is where, okay, I'm looking at what I'm going to change. And if I really wanted to change it, I would hit submit again, and it would be done. I'm going to leave ours. Oh, what the heck? Oh, change it. Submit. Boom. There, I have now updated all of the graduation dates for my currently enrolled seniors. And if I select a single student now, where do I find this for this particular student? Okay, state province ND in the fall spring submission tab. Ta-da, here it is. And I just changed it to May 23rd, 2021. If you have a now new student that comes to your district who is a senior, you want to make sure you get this put in for them, anticipating that, they're also going to graduate on May 23rd, 2021. How about that student that says, I'm a senior, but I'm done in January and I'm out of here? Can you go fill in their graduation date as being January 15th of 2021? Certainly. That way it'll get updated on the student's e-transcript, and you'll be good to go to start sending that student's transcript as soon as they are actually finished at the end of semester 1. So new students that come in, you want to make sure to come here, that are seniors, come here, enter their graduation date, or students that are going to change and graduate early or maybe later, like maybe, it's May 23rd, but I'm not graduating. But as soon as I get this one Center for Distance Ed course done, and I'll maybe have it done by about June 15th, I'll graduate then. You say, fine. When you come back with that paperwork that says you passed that class, we'll come in here and put June 15th, 2021 as your graduation date. So you can do any of those scenarios. So any questions on that?
Not seeing any, Bob. MIS 03s.
Okay. MIS 03. All right. What I'm going to do is, Jane and I, we delivered 4 of these MIS 03 workdays, update kind of things. So what I'm going to do is, if you are that person that assists with this or whatever, or maybe you're interested in knowing, what do you got to do? All right. In Powerschool, you can, for those classroom instructors, classroom teachers, meaning they are in a school, I'll just go staff, and I'm at the high school. I'm going to pick, I got this Schaefer guy that works here, and so I want to, which one are you? Oh, of course, you're at the Do you have anything here at the high school set up for yourself?
Yep, Edutech 2323. That's me.
All right,
Michael
cool.
Jordan.
So I'll select Rob. So what I would do is I come here to, this is the Powerschool information, and this is missing a lot because there are 7 required fields on this screen. Okay, and matter of fact, maybe what I should do is I'm going to pick myself. So I'm going to back up here. Boom. There you saw a screen that was missing stuff. I'm going to pick myself. Here we go. And I had selected the staff information screen, so I come right back to it. Okay. In Powerschool, my last name is Bauman. My first name is Bob, because that's what I really like to be called. I'm not one of these guys that likes my given first name. Okay. Well, unfortunately, Bob, on your teacher license, you are referred to legally as Bauman Robert, because that's your legal given name, and that's what has to go on North Dakota teacher licenses.
Really good name.
I have
really
to make
good
sure.
name.
Yeah. Okay. So I make sure that I have my legal name in here because it is different than what my preferred name is in Powerschool. Okay. I need to have an email address. That is required field. I need to have a gender. That is a required field. Yes.
Bob, can I ask a question on that? I did
Certainly.
that here in Jamestown. I put in the legal names and I put in the other names. The legal names did not flow. And I got an error in the MISO3s and had to go back and put the legal name in the Powerschool name.
Okay. Did you happen to talk to Jamie about that?
I did not. I just went and did it, put it back so we could get done.
Yeah. Okay.
You need to make sure it's on the next page that we go to. That's where you see it. So it should have flowed to the next page, because I had the same thing, and once I went in and fixed it, it worked.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll.
What page do you? I'm not sure what you mean.
On the state reporting information screen. So give me a second. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Okay. So email address is, so we got to have last first, and then if it's different for legal, you need to put those. Email address has to be in there. Gender has to be in there. If you need to, that's the only time you use this. Although people seem to think that, oh, because it's got this neat copy button, I'm just going to do that and it's going to copy. Well, why would you copy it here? I don't understand why Powerschool did this, but legal gender should be used only when it's needed to. So if I have a staff member that is legally male but wants to identify as female, I can switch this to female, and then I can say no, but legal gender has to stay as male, because that's what's got to go with what your teacher license number or teacher license is going to say, and your teacher license does go by legal. So okay. Enough about that. I need to have an ethnicity. Yes, no. Am I Hispanic or not? I need to have a race or races, depending on how I want to identify. But I need to have at least one of these checked. And I need to have a date of birth. Yes, I am old. Okay. And I am an active in Powerschool. That's going to be a key thing here too. But those 7 things that we touched on as far as last first, email address, gender, ethnicity, race, and date of birth, those are 7 required fields on this screen. Okay. If I do ever make any changes here, make sure to click submit or you're not going to get them recorded. Okay, the next page, this is now page 26. This is the North Dakota State Reporting Information screen. Okay, so this is why, okay, this name pulls from Powerschool first and last. That's why we need to get the legal if this needs to be different, okay, on any of this. And this was more stringent this year than last year because ESPB said, oh, we got to get matches on names from Powerschool to licenses. And yeah, Patty in Powerschool and it's Patricia on the license. We had way more of those this year than we did last year. So make sure you get the legal name in, but that reminds me, then we're gonna have to talk to Jamie to see what's going on there, or Jolene from SLDS, because I'm thinking they were pulling it and stopped, or weren't and now have, because I think we got a lot of these fixed here in the last week or so. Teacher license number must be here, okay? If I am a teacher that have sections that I want to report for whatever reason at whatever school, I need to have a license number here. Okay, Since this is, and I want to back up because I omitted talking about, but on my Powerschool information screen, I'm here at the high school, and I know I'm in the right place because that is my home school. Whenever you're working on a teacher's record, you have to make sure this homeschool indicator matches the school that you're working in. If you're not, you're in the wrong place, okay? So yes, my homeschool is the high school. That's where I'm working at. I enter my data here, and then I go to the North Dakota State Reporting Information screen because this links to that record. Okay, I have my license number in here. No, that's not my license number. I'm not that old. My salary, how many days are in my contract period, and this is all over the place now for districts because remember, it's hours now that determine a year of membership, not days. And this is strictly how many days are you contracted with your district? That's what goes in here. How many years of educational experience? When you come back in, this should, for a new year, we should be incrementing this by one more. We are going to have a validation built in now where it's going to automatically do this for you. And the only thing you got to do is just look at it and say, yep, that's right. Okay.
Rob,
what
did you say I need to do with my one that put 0 in there?
You need to, if they have any kind of years educational experience, you need to fill that in.
But if they don't, if this is their first year of teaching, then we leave it blank or put a 0 in?
You can do either. It's going to work either way.
I think Rob said that might be why it's not flowing, or did you say that?
Could be. I mean, be on the safe side, then put a 0 in. But it's a null value. Okay. No need to put anything as far as administrative experience for classroom teachers, so you can leave that blank. All right. The percent of time devoted to grade level. Whatever you put in here, just know it has to add up to 100. Okay. And if you try to put too much in, I'll just put a 5 in here and boom. Oh, you can't do that. Matter of fact, when you first start filling these in, you're going to get this because it's going to look and it's going to start summing up. Well, just keep entering until you get it filled in the way it needs to be. And then once you hit where your sum is 100, all those validation errors go away. And then you know you're good. Okay. Validation as far as position code major. We had a mistake on this last year. We fixed it for this year. Okay. I'm a classroom teacher, so my position code major is 70 teacher. I am a regular classroom instruction. This is going to be what most of your teachers are going to report as, and it's 100% of the time. If I am only part-time, this percent entry should reflect that. If I'm only half-time, I should only be here as 50%. That doesn't affect any of this up here as to what grade levels I'm serving, but it is telling stars in MIS 03 that I'm only a part-time teacher. Now, if I need to have multiple responsibility codes in here, because maybe I'm only 70% teacher, and watch what happens here. Let's say maybe I'm a coordinator, and boom, as soon as you fill in one thing, it's saying, okay, you can't have something filled in just one of these. You got to have all 3 filled in. So that, okay. I was a technology coordinator, and for now 30% of the time. And when I get that filled in, boom, those go away. The only thing you have to pay attention here now is if you have a teacher that has multiple responsibility codes that you have to report, they have to be in order from highest to lowest of percentage. So yeah, 70% teacher, that one's got to come first. 30% coordinator, that one's got to come next. And then if you still need to move others, and again, this can't be more than 100, but it can be less than. So I suppose I could be like 25% teacher and 25% tech coordinator. That'd work. Okay. So then we go down and we got to fill in degree information as best we have, maybe this is master's degree and from what university and what year, and bachelor's degree from what university and what year. Highest degrees, graduate semester hours, I really would like to change this. It should just be graduate semester hours. It is total. From the time you graduated with your undergrad degree, how many total semester hours have you earned? And that's what goes in here. It does not do a reset when you go to a higher degree, like earn your master's, okay? It stays counting up from total number of credits that you've earned. If you have your teachers come in and do this, and you have control to do that, it is an on-off switch at the district level. Excuse me. And you have your teachers sign into Power Teacher and go to the link that says North Dakota State Reporting Information. They will come to see this exact page right here, okay? They don't get to see the Powerschool information side of things, only this page. And I would tell you, have them together as a group where you can give directions, answer questions, get everybody doing the same thing at the same time. And when they're done, they click submit. This date is going to show up on the admin side portal, and you can then know that, yes, they did this, and yes, they submitted, and it was on this date. Now, do you want to put the directions in their mailbox and turn them loose and just say, yeah, get this done for me, would you? Oh, God, let me tell you. You're asking for so much trouble. Have them together, have them do this as a group. Maybe you have all their salaries available for them, because you say, okay, put your salary in, you're going to get those deer in the headlight looks from some of those teachers who, I don't have a clue what mine is. So you just give it to them and say, yeah, here you go, fill this in. How many years of education experience, and you can probably have that data handy for them, and they fill it in for you, just so that you're getting all of these done at one time in terms of getting them updated. So, and again, Annie, if you're in here doing the changes for them, fine. Make sure you click submit. If you're having them in here doing the data updates, make sure you get them to click the submit button and get it done. So, MISO3s, again, classroom teachers with schedules in Powerschool with students enrolled in sections. That is who it's intended to work for. Okay. Will it work for that kindergarten teacher that you put in and all you do is give that teacher an AM and PM attendance sections? No. AM and PM attendance do not report. They don't care about attendance sections. They want to know curriculum sections like reading and math and science and English language arts and whatever else, okay? So if you put those sections in for a teacher, let's say elementary teacher, don't put in the sections, but leave the numbers as 0 with no enrollments. That's not going to report, because as far as the MISO3 is looking at, it sees those sections with 0 students. It says, yeah, nothing here to report. It will not pull that teacher's record. Okay. So you need to have at least one section for a teacher with students enrolled in that section for that teacher to report. Okay. So now we have that. All right. So we got those teachers that are, principals. Good example. High school principal. I teach one section of Algebra 1 because we had 4 of them, and a regular math teacher couldn't handle it. So yeah, I'll teach that one section of algebra. For that principal, do you want to report that? I'm telling you, probably not. Nah. To do all that work to get one section reported, you're just as well to go into the MISO3, roll that staff member over that principal, and just put that algebra class in manually, and then update the other responsibilities they have, like the principalship and all that jazz. Okay, if they teach maybe 4 sections, yeah, then maybe I would consider doing that out of Powerschool, having those sections pull up, so fill out all the data for the principal as you would a regular classroom teacher, and get all those to pull up, and then add, the other responsibilities that they have in MISO3. I'm also going to tell you this. If you're thinking you're going to get this to work absolutely perfectly for your district, never going to happen, because you have those things going on that you can't figure out why a teacher doesn't pull. So if you get to the point where you're saying that's about as good as I'm going to get coming out of Powerschool, go and shut off your vertical reporting processes, go into the MISO3, do final numbers for teachers, because maybe you can't get a course to pull correctly or whatever. Do your final numbers manually, submit it, you're done, okay? But unfortunately, we still have people out there that thinking, well, I turned on my MISO3 and Not everybody is showing up, and then you start asking, well, who's not showing up? Well, like my title teachers. No, they're not going to, because you don't have a section enrollment for that Title I teacher. That's a teacher you're still going to do manually in MISO3, just like you've done before. So, questions on that?
Okay, we do have one, Bob. If you scroll to the bottom of your page here, for graduate semester hours, was told to use all the hours above bachelor's. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
That would be correct. Yep. From the time they get this bachelor's degree, how many total semester hours has that staff member earned?
Okay, and then you give up control, because I'm going to wrap up the class then. I think.
Boy, that's dangerous.
We're good there. Okay. So guys, last thing to talk to you about here today is, let's get the right screen selected here. That's this one. Okay. You all received from me in your email this Clean Data is Good Data District Pacing Guide. Okay. When Bob, Jane, and I sat down to do this a few years ago, we thought these people need something to kind of follow along with, or a checklist that kind of takes them through the year. So we have 5 categories here. A couple weeks into school, you're going to run through these reports, and you're going to make sure you turn on your automated file transfer. And you can see there's Powerschool reports, there's SLDS reports, there's STARS reports. We're reminding you which fields are vitally important that you should be checking. And then end of quarter 1, you run through these reports. End of quarter 2, you run through these, and so forth, so on and so forth, right? So you just follow this guide here as you go through your quarters and your terms, and you're checking things a few times throughout the year, okay? The other thing is the back page, page 28 in your document, is kind of just some reminder things. There's Steve's information. Bob chatted. What was her name, Bob?
Angie Thomas?
Angie Thomas's information. She's MISO3 and calendar questions.
Yep.
Ignore the SLDS help ticket. That's already been taken out. That shouldn't be in there. We have a new help desk that you go through. And then a reminder about your FERPA, and then that STARS enrollment reports guide. That's the link to the DPI website, takes you right to the guide, and that's all of the stuff that Steve kind of went through today, and has guides in there for it. So that's kind of the end of our day, the end of our session. We're going to stay on here and answer any questions that you might have at the end here, and we'll stay on as long as we need to. We were shooting for that 2 o'clock time. It's 2:12, so we did pretty good. I'm really proud of all of you staying on all day. This is a long day on the computer. It's a long day on Teams, so really thankful you gave us your attention. You asked great questions. Hopefully we got a lot of things found as far as being able to fix. We'll stay on, Lenora, Bob, Steve, and I. Steve's back on now for as long as you need us to, and you can leave the meeting as soon as you think you're good to go. So thank you again for a great day. Ryan, Kidder County, did you get your question taken care of with that one student under transfer info?
Thank you, guys. Thanks for all the help today.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Robert,
Yes.
we have a question. Oh, hold on. Someone just walked in.
Amber, partial's out of questions. I think I've tallied about 4 of them.
I'm done. I'm cut off.
Okay, what's up?
I did email you on the one student, but I think I figured that out now.
Okay.
Selena was one.
But we have. Go ahead.
So Selena and Jaden. Oh, Selena Powell.
What was the question?
So
they have 36 days and 9 days. Oh shoot,
they're not
that's the
adding
wrong
up
person.
to 173. They're adding up to 172.
So is that the ADA ADM?
Yep.
You found that?
The very
Okay.
first one.
All right,
Sorry.
that's the best one. At the high school?
Yep.
What was the student name?
Selena Powell.
Selena.
Says she's gone 3 days, I believe, but.
And I'm seeing only 1 enrollment. Did she change at all this year? I mean, is there anything been different about her?
Nope.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and run the ADA ADM here and see what I get.
I just ran it and she's got the 173 days and it shows she was absent 3 days, but then it's showing 169.
Yeah.
So it's 1 day off.
I got 4 days absent on mine, and it adds up correctly. No, I didn't. You're right.
I was like, that's weird.
I'm missing a day. Does
anybody run refresh Premier attendance?
And Jaden Voigt.
I'm doing it, Bob.
Okay.
And then, no.
Go ahead, Amber, we're listening.
Okay, for my student that passed away, I have her, like she was gone obviously quite a bit because she was in the hospital, but I did like transfer her out. And so now it says 36 days and then 9 days absent, and then it says 27 over. Is that correct? I don't know how that stuff works, I guess.
Bob, you can take that one while I'm working on the other one.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at
What's her name?
Elvia Ramirez. Ramirez.
Selena's still wrong, so I'm guessing there's got to be an overlapping enrollment here somewhere with a class or something, Bob. List view.
Shows 33 period.
Your student who was deceased is correct because the days are adding up correctly. That
okay.
There were 31 days of enrollment. She was gone 14 and was there for 17, which equals your 31.
Okay, so there's nothing else then I would need to do for her?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so for Selena Powell, Amber, I'm guessing there was a couple late enrollments into periods, and you've got a double enrollment you got an overlapping enrollment period 3, where she was enrolled in remedial reading till 10/22, but also that was quarter 1. But in S1 period 3, she started a 9/9 to 1/4 enrollment. So the system isn't going to be fully accurate because there's attendance taken in each of these classes that's going to create an issue. So if you pull her up and you go list view or all enrollments, it's going to show you have an overlapping for her. Quarter one, she was enrolled remedial reading till 10/22. Resource room, she started same period, S1, 9/9. So there's about, there's a few days that are, there's going to be double attendance here.
Yeah, well, that's more than a month of third period, where if she got counted twice, that's
I probably forgot to drop her from.
Yep. So you can go to all enrollments and fix that. If there's attendance taken, it might not let you. You might have to clear some attendance there with this kiddo. Okay. In that remedial reading, Q1 is my guess. You're going to want to put that back to 9/8, that she left that and went into resource room 9/9, right? And then, does that make sense?
She is in remedial reading though, so.
So that's the one that needs to change. So do you want a Q1 enrollment or an S1 enrollment there?
Well, that's our intervention. So she's, that one, they switch by quarters.
Okay. They can't be dually enrolled though.
I know. So that's what I'm saying.
We don't care how you do this. You can only take attendance one spot.
Resource would have to change.
Yep. Or just leave her in resource, put her in remedial whenever you want to, and don't take attendance there. Just have attendance taken in resource room for the whole semester.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter to us in Powerschool that she's getting some support in another room. That doesn't matter to us. I would just leave her in the resource room for the whole semester and have the remedial reading quarter teacher let resource room take attendance.
And you have
actually, I think that's Mr. Saggart that changed it. Because if you look, so she was in quarter 3 or whatever, resource room 3rd hour, and then she has resource room C hour, which is like no hour. And I know Saggart did that. I know he switched something with all of Mary's courses.
Yep. So you got to go fight it out with him. But it needs to be fixed.
Okay.
Right. It needs
and
to
then
be fixed.
same with Mr. Jaden Voigt then.
Yep, I would bet that's.
Jaden Voigt he's in the English 4 from starting August 20th through the end of the whole semester, but then he's in that resource room starting on the 9th. So he's got a double enrollment again with that resource room.
Yep. So Shane he needs to stop doing that way. Now listen, this is not a bad thing that you're trying to give resources to kids, right? That's not a bad thing. It's just you got to figure out who's going to take attendance, and you can move your kids wherever you want to move them. We don't need to know.
Okay.
And you can give support however you want to. Yep.
But if I take them out of like their actual like. Selena's a middle schooler, so that one's not really going to affect her credits and whatever, but Jaden is a senior, so we would have to probably take him out of the actual resource room.
Mm-hmm.
Drop him from that one. Okay.
Yep. And you do need to fix Selena's too for Powerschool.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying I could drop her from the remedial and still take.
And my guess is because I think I did your end of year, I don't know if you have quarter classes set up in your final grade setup. So when we're setting these up, we got to be careful in your final grade. Let me look. Oh yeah, you do have quarters set up, so that's fine. Okay, forget that part. Just another tangent.
Alrighty.
Okay, and then that'll fix, and you got to check some of these double enrollments, which is why their ADA ADM won't work right. Which, if you remember when Steve was talking, they're going to get like a 0.99 instead of 1.0. You're not going to get full payment for these kids, even though you had them all year.
Okay.
And if you need more help as we work through this, just pop me an email and I can work on them, cleaning up some of the attendance.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Bye, guys.
See you. Paul, you got a question?
I always have a question.
Good.
I seem to have run into a lot of messes.
Okay.
When I pulled distance learning students up, didn't you say that if they have an exit date, they go off this list?
I wasn't sure about that, but I was hoping that's what it does.
Well, it shouldn't though, because if we're supposed to keep track of all of them, don't we want them to stay on there?
Well, we'd be able to find that. Yeah, maybe that's the reason why they do, is so that we have a record. Who's ever been on? And
are you showing that they aren't going off the list, Polly?
No, they're not.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'm running it from a different place. Remind me where you ran it from.
Special
you can run
programs.
it from either the school or the district, unless you have not switched over to the new view. Let me go out of here. And to Surrey. And okay,
I
so
ran it when you did it, but now I don't remember where to go.
yeah, so like, which school are you at, Polly?
Right now I'm at the high school.
Okay, so I'll switch to the high school with you. All right, so now over on the start page at the high school, under functions, special programs is down almost to the bottom there. Okay. So if you click special programs, and it's going to list everything that you have ever had as a special program, you have your distance learning and hybrid listed there. And if you click on display for either of those, like for distance learning, if I click display, I'm showing that you've had this group of students. And I guess the way to check at that, it would be make this current selection of students. And it grabs them all, and then it brings you to the group functions screen, and current student selection is 14. If you click the 14, you now have that list of students. So if I start with Vanessa, and I hope I didn't lose you, but if you start with Vanessa.
Oh, I'm with you, Bob.
And for the individual student, we go down to enrollment and we click special programs. And I'm seeing Vanessa is currently in distance learning right now, no exit date. So, I mean, if I were to see this, I'd said students been distance learning since the start of the school year. So now, if I just use the right arrow in my list in the upper left corner there, I can just start moving through my students and like, okay, so I got Dalton Anderson. Yeah, and you're right. It keeps any special programs enrollments there. He's in distance learning. You guys used to use this for title way back in 2012. So as a fourth grader, he was enrolled. So yeah, it's going to keep track of all. So yeah, even if one of these, okay, so.
Jaden was exited 10:15, or it will be exited 10:15.
Yeah.
Still current.
I don't know if that messes up SLDS when it sees an exit date there, but like for Jaden he hopefully is not going to be reported up to the Insights website after October 15.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting though is that the two of the girls on here, the Larson girls, they had dates for when they came back. They were not set at 5/26/21. I put their exit dates in already. And that was quite a while ago. They came back on
So you're saying you marked this?
Yeah.
Oh, and
that's why I thought it was holding them, because they were already back. They came back, they were out from 8:20 to 8:31.
So can you go edit that again and see if it changes in a couple days, Polly?
Yeah.
8:20.
Go ahead and mark that.
So
date they were
what's happening with the Larson?
Well, she said she put in 8:31, but it's showing last day of school.
So I went into the re-enrollments table, and yeah, I'm not seeing anybody with an exit date of 8/31.
And I've been putting in exit dates for the kids that have already been exited. So it's almost like that exit date has been deleted and it's been moved forward.
So I do have some like showing 10/26, 10/19.
Upcoming dates, but not past dates.
Yeah,
Nope.
it's the past dates that are confusing.
I have one showing 10/11.
Who's that?
Let me click on that. Gotta go into the other part here. Quentin, Kerutis.
Quentin Kerutis. Yeah, that's there. He wasn't in our list when we did the search, though.
And yeah, and then you would think he wouldn't be because he should have been exited by then. But so
Right.
that theory out.
So that was that original question. Is it going to show all kids or is it going to just show current kids? And why don't you, Polly, test those 2 Larson kids, put them back in at 8:31, and then let's check in a couple days and see if they remove themselves from the list here.
They're already removed. I just did it and they're already off there. So
Okay. Well, let's check in a couple days to see if it puts a wrong exit date on here for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but what about my, as far as my original question, then for those kids that are exiting, being held on to, how
Somewhere
do we go
else.
back then and say, well, we had 65 over the year because, they've exited, gone on and off throughout the whole time.
Can you do a distance learning search, Bob, for any information there, not blank? You know what I'm saying?
I don't, because you got to use the asterisk.
So do this, Polly. Go to click on System, and then do Direct Database Export, the DDE.
Okay.
And go to the Special Enrollments table.
Okay.
And right now, well, I'll just have you do all of them, but basically your ID for this is 4447, but just bring up all of these 262 just so you can see them. And then do table view. So it's the ones way at the bottom. The ones coded 4447.
So you're doing an ID equals 4447, Lenore?
Yeah, you could. I just wanted her to see all of them because right now, because I'm guessing 4447 is either only distance learning or hybrid. I don't know which.
Yeah, if you go into Gen
I don't
table,
have
you can
any
find out which
hybrids,
is which.
so this would have to be the distance learning.
Okay, but that's why I just didn't give that number. But once you had the number, you could use both of those. But you do have some in here with 0 as the exit date. And then you have to click into each one to see the actual name unless you do some kind of export with this. But
I really miss having those dates, like we talked about with the homeless report and like that other person brought up as far as bringing up the report of this and having the exit dates on there.
Yeah.
It makes it harder to not have those dates. I'm not sure why they got rid of them. Okay, then my other question, when I do the power tools, I really end up with a lot of kids.
Some of them are going to be old, though. Is there a spot that says current year only in your drop down up above?
Yeah, the ones I've been looking at do say current year only, but when I pull that up, I still get old kids, but I've got some new kids too.
So give us an example of what you did.
Go back into Power Tools. Let's see, the Orphaned Records report.
Okay.
And this is at the high school, right?
Orphaned attendance records, is that what you're seeing?
Yes. Yep. At
Yeah.
The high school.
There's a lot of them.
Now, when I look at this, I think, well, I only get the first, 25 kids, but 572. Is there even any way to know if any of them are recent?
Well, I think Bob's suggestion would be to run that orphaned attendance records wizard and let it run. And you might have to let it run overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll fix them all for you. Then you don't have to worry about going back section
So
by
I should
section.
just do that with each of the things that I have errors in?
Yep. And
Okay.
I mean, you don't have a lot of errors in any of the others. There's 6 on orphan store grades report, 1 on section records, and 2 on re-enrollment records. But that 572, I'd get done with my day. When I'm ready to go home, I'd click that and I'd run that wizard and let it run overnight. And when you get there in the morning, it'll be fixed. That's what I would do. Those other ones you should be able to just fix pretty quick and easy right here.
The enrollment report, I've got a lot of there too.
Re-enrollment records,
that
I
one-
see 2.
Because this one doesn't allow me to use the wizard, does it?
I don't know. Yeah, it does. There's a re-enrollment records wizard there.
Enrollment report. Oh, because I have to go one further in one. I just was at the main page.
Okay. Oh, the enrollment
Okay.
report. Yep, I see
Haven't
those.
used
Okay.
it either.
Yep.
Students with overlapping school enrollments in Surrey High School. There's no wizard there.
Okay, I'm with you there now. Yeah, you do have a bunch of them here. Change it to current year.
Yeah, it is set at current year.
Yep, and there you still
And
do
then
have some.
If I click on overlapping school enrollments, it brings up the 2 kids, but no wizard.
Yep, you'll have to fix these one by one then if they don't have the wizard. And this is a kid that transferred out in 2006. I wouldn't worry about him.
The other one, that Unjum, they transfer in and out every year.
Okay.
They go to Arizona.
Then you might want to edit up their enrollments then.
Okay.
Because there's some old things that are pulling into the wizard. That doesn't mean it would necessarily cause a problem with stars or anything. It just is in Powerschool, it's seeing overlaps.
Okay.
Okay.
And the last thing I had was the 4 kids that showed up in the re-enrollments. When we did the system and then DDE and then re-enrollments, I had 4 kids.
DDE. So with the grade level of 99?
Yes.
Grade level equals 99.
Do I have to be in district for that or high school?
It doesn't really matter. You can run it. I'm not getting any. System DDE. Oh, there we go. Got him.
Are you in a school? Because I'm not getting, I can't even find.
I did it from the district office. And this was looks like a 2014 kid here. So Bob, you seeing those?
No. Hang on, let me get there with you. Where you at?
Go into the district office in Surrey.
Okay.
And run that system, that re-enrollments grade level 99 search. She gets 4 of them.
Oh, so system. DD. Oh yeah, okay. Re-enrollments.
The other 3 I think are fine. That first one, I think the student is in the high school. Can't be.
Okay, we got 4 table view.
Well, it says there's 4 of them, but 3 of them have the same student ID number.
Yeah, and I don't think those 3 there's anything wrong with those.
Is it 460? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
The
don't
other
need to
one,
look about these.
no, I don't think so. The other one looks like is a graduated student still located in the high school. Kayla Foley.
No, she's been gone for a long time.
Right, but that doesn't mean she's not where she shouldn't be. Yeah, she is a transferred out and looks like she was a educated till age 21 student.
Yes.
And was transferred out from the high school on March 24th of 16, but graduated on May 24th of 14. So what happened was she got graduated with her class like she should have, but then came back and took classes after that as she should have, but was never moved back into the high school correctly and was never exited correctly. So what do we do there, Bob? She's got 2 enrollments after her graduation.
Yeah, and she should have been moved back to the high school even though she was graduated, so that.
Yep.
I'm sure someone helped me with this. I wouldn't be capable of doing that all by myself.
No, this would have been, yeah, you'd have put a ticket in for us to move you back that 14, 15 year. And it wasn't, none of it's kind of correct.
I really can't ever figure out if I know too much to be dangerous or just really nothing at all.
That's how I feel, Polly.
Oh, golly, yeah, we could, I'm wondering if we have those in the previous enrollments, we have those 01, 01, 1900. We should just delete those 3.
Lenore, are you going to do that with those other 3?
Sorry, I got busy looking at something else on there, so I wasn't.
I can do them here.
Okay, Bob will do them. And then with Kayla, is this even worth fixing, Bob, since it's so old, or how do you?
I don't know. Let me get these done.
Because Kidder County actually had one of these too that I have a note of. So whatever we do with Kayla here is what I'm going to do with Tyler.
Okay, so it's just DD, and we'll run grade level 99. Okay, so the one we got left is Kayla Foley. Okay, so we have entry code graduate.
She's still housed in the high school, Bob.
School ID. Okay, so what? Okay, start page. / Foley. Kayla. So we have. Oh yeah. Okay. Previous enrollments, we got that 524, 524. We should just get rid of that one.
Okay, I got that.
There, that'll fix those.
So you think she's good then?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Polly, that's good that we just deleted that one graduated enrollment.
Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay,
Appreciate you
bye.
guys.
Okay, we'll see ya.
Bye.
So all you did was delete her graduated thing under the transfer info? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll do with that Kidder County one, because
Yeah. I remember seeing the same thing on his.
those are special education students, you know, and they come back and get services through 21 and
Yeah.
forget to get excluded in a graduation process. So Bob, Lenore and I had a question on, in the document on page 27, no, 25. I have the screenshot there that shows gender and it doesn't show legal gender. And I don't know, do you want a new screenshot? Because I think that legal gender opens up a whole mess because people mark it anyway and they aren't supposed to. And
I really don't care if it's in here or not.
Those that know it, so they got to mark it because it's one or two teachers in the state of North Dakota maybe, and they're probably at Bismarck or Fargo. But is it okay just leaving it that way?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. If Lenora's okay, she has to deal with that not being correct though, Lenora. That's.
I know. Oh, dang it. I have a hard time with that one.
I know. I fixed all the other things as we're going through today, so I'll send a new doc out for the 22nd.
Well, the only thing I thought is if people are actually looking at this document 3 weeks down the road and then they get to it and then there's no explanation.
Right.
You know, even have legal and even like a little note after it saying where they can write, don't enter this unless you have to.
Right.
And if it's not on the shot, then.
Yep. I'm just going to leave it off and we'll answer those questions as they come.
Nope, sounds good.
Okay. Good day today. Everything went good. Next Thursday, Bob, you're off. Lenora's on. Lenora and I and Jane will cover Lenora will do the beginning part. Jane will do the SLDS, and then I'll do the closing part.
Okay, so that was going to be my question. So what about the MIS-03 and the E-Trans?
I'll handle that stuff at the end with Jane's supervision because she'll be in.
Okay.
But Bob is not on Thursday. You're doing the transfers, the enrollment stuff at the beginning and the reports at the beginning. Jane will do the SLDS. Steve will do his stars. I'll do the end stuff with Jane's help.
Nope, sounds good. Yep, I took notes on it just in case anyway. Well, and we get tickets on it all the time, so.
Yep.
I just don't have as good as stories as Bob does. He's been around so much more.
He does. Well, you can use some. I mean, he hasn't put them under license or anything.
He hadn't copyrighted those yet?
Yeah, he hasn't copyrighted any of those. I find myself using his stories with tickets too.
Yeah. Bob, while I have you here, I don't know if I'm going to need a new phone. I don't know. I've tried to do a screenshot that I was going to show you. Something weird happened on my phone. I don't know if you guys can actually see this. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little, oh, you aren't going to be able to see that. There's like a little shadow behind in the bottom, like a little flashlight that's sort of blurred in the bottom right-hand corner. And this started like last week, Wednesday or Thursday, and my phone will be at like 85% and it just dies.
Uh-oh.
And the only, whether I'm on a phone call or whatever, it just goes out, and the only way it keeps working is if I leave it plugged in the whole time. I spent like 3 hours this weekend trying to find different fixes for it. I did all sorts of stuff that I found online.
What version is that, Lenora?
Yeah, you know what phone you got?
It's an 8, iPhone 8.
That's probably what we can get you as far as a replacement, but I can put a request in to get you
a new 8
phone. Yeah, and that's fine. I liked the smaller one. I purposely did a smaller one last time. But everything else works on it perfectly, but it's like, I don't know what happened. And then the other thing I noticed yesterday, I was going to look at one of my apps that's always in the bottom right-hand corner, like on the 3rd page, and it was moved to the next page. And I'm going, I didn't add any new apps on this phone. And I found one, it was something about translating, like translating languages. And I thought, that's the only one I don't remember. I deleted it, but I don't know. I'm just guessing now. I've spent hours looking at this already, trying to figure out it's like there's a little gremlin in here.
I think Apple does that on purpose, so you have to get a new phone.
They actually just had something on a news thing the other day about how all of these things they make it purposely like that.
Yeah.
So you have to basically like break a computer or a phone to get in it. You can't repair it yourself.
Yep. I think they do that on purpose, so you have to update.
Yeah.
I do know that Translate came with the new 14.0 iOS operating system. So Translate was a new app that they added when you upgraded your iOS to 14 or 14.1 or whatever it is now.
Okay, so and then that was part of what I was doing to fix. I went and I looked at any new updates and I update. Well, thanks, Steve. That's where that came from, but I deleted it because I know I didn't put this on here.
Yeah.
And I do like foreign countries, but I'm not going anywhere soon.
Yeah. Thank goodness. So today went good. I mean, we stayed pretty good on time. Everybody stayed on. I wasn't sure if we'd get people back after lunch, but we sure did. So any suggestions about different before next Thursday?
Gotta make sure your screen is bigger when you start, guys.
Yeah.
Well, here's what happens, Lenora. In Teams, you can do that upgrade thing to maximize your team's experience, that new experience things. If you don't do that, it is hard to see the screens. For me, I have that new experience on, so the screen's nice and big and bold for me. And you can't tell everybody who's coming on for a one-day meeting to do that new experience thing. So yeah, you just got to make the screen bigger.
And I did see the one other person had requested that.
Yeah, she did. Yep, that was Darcy, I think, or I can't remember.
I mean, mine wasn't even so much for me because I don't even need to look at that, but I know people can't see it.
Right. Okay,